The day breathes its last, a long, slow exhale that settles over the sleeping city. But here, in the quiet of your room, the world is still awake. It lives behind your eyes, a restless, flickering cinema of moments that have passed, and worries about moments yet to come. Outside, the sounds of the world have faded to a distant hum. But inside, the noise is louder than ever. It is the sound of a mind that cannot find its off switch, the ceaseless chatter of the inner critic, the planner, the worrier, the judge. We scroll through memories and to-do lists. We replay conversations, searching for different outcomes. We build futures on foundations of sand, all from the stillness of our bed. There is a profound sense of being stuck, of running in place while the world sleeps peacefully around us. This feeling, this gentle, persistent ache of anxiety, is not a personal failure. It is not a sign that you are broken. It is, instead, the shared language of our modern world, a quiet epidemic of the soul. We have built a life of incredible speed and connection, a world that demands we be more, do more, and achieve more. Yet we have forgotten how to simply be. We are adrift on an ocean of information, tossed by waves of expectation, and we have lost sight of the shore. We search for peace in distraction, for quiet in more noise, for rest in exhaustion, hoping that one day we will stumble upon the happiness that always seems just out of reach. But what if the path to peace is not found by searching outside of ourselves? What if it is not about adding more, but about letting go? What if there existed an ancient map, a wisdom passed down through thousands of years, not as a rigid set of rules, but as a gentle, compassionate guide to the landscape of our own minds? This is not a path of escape, but a path inward, a journey to understand the nature of our thoughts, to befriend our feelings, and to discover the quiet, unshakable space of stillness that already exists within each of us. Tonight, we will embark on that journey together. We will explore the simple, profound art of mindfulness, the liberating power of letting go, and the deep peace that comes from returning, finally, to the home within ourselves. There is no need to strive or to force anything. Simply allow these words, these stories, to be a gentle hand, guiding you away from the noise and into a place of deep, restorative rest. Let us begin our journey, not by venturing outward into the vastness of the world, but by turning our attention to a process so simple, so fundamental, that we often live our entire lives without truly noticing it. It is the first act of life, and it will be the very last. It is the gentle rhythm that underpins every moment of our existence, the quiet companion that is with us through joy and sorrow, through turmoil and peace. It is your own breath. For now, simply bring your awareness to this breath. There is no need to change it, no need to control it, or make it deeper, or slower. The body knows how to breathe perfectly well on its own. Our task is not to interfere, but simply to become acquainted with this quiet, steady friend. Feel the air as it enters your nostrils, perhaps cool and fresh. Follow its path as it fills your lungs, and notice the gentle expansion of your chest, of your abdomen, and then feel the surrender of the exhalation as the air, now warm, leaves your body, carrying with it a sense of release. In and out, a quiet, effortless rhythm. This is the starting point of our practice. It is the home to which we can always return. Think of your mind as a small boat, floating on the vast ocean of life. On most days, this ocean is not calm. It is stirred by the winds of yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's anxieties. Waves of emotion, happiness, sadness, anger, and fear rise and fall, tossing our little boat back and forth. We get so caught up in the drama of the storm, so focused on the size of the waves, that we forget we are in a boat at all. We believe we are the storm. We become lost, adrift, at the mercy of every passing current. In this tumultuous sea, the breath is our anchor. An anchor does not stop the storm. It does not calm the waves or silence the wind. Its purpose is much simpler and much more profound. The anchor connects the boat to the quiet, stable ground of the ocean floor, holding it steady in one place. It allows the storm to rage, the waves to crash, and the winds to blow. But the boat is no longer swept away. It finds its center. It holds its ground. When you bring your awareness to your breath, you are doing precisely this. You are lowering your anchor into the quiet depths of the present moment. The thoughts will still come. The emotions will still arise. But you are no longer lost in them. You are anchored. You are safe. You have a reference point, a place of stability amidst the chaos. This power of the breath as an anchor comes from one simple, undeniable truth. The breath can only exist in the present moment. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. You cannot inhale a breath that is in the future. Each rise and fall of your chest is happening right now. It is a direct, tangible, physical experience of this very moment. And the present moment is the only place life ever truly exists. Our minds, however, rarely live here. They are masterful time travelers. They spend countless hours wandering through the ghostly corridors of the past, replaying old conversations, reliving old hurts, basking in faded glories, or they rocket into the imagined landscapes of the future, rehearsing for challenges that may never come, creating detailed plans, and fueling themselves with anxiety about 1,000 different possibilities. The mind is almost never here, but the breath, the body, they are always here. By gently placing your attention on the physical sensation of breathing, you are coaxing your mind out of the imaginary worlds of past and future, and inviting it to come home to the reality of the present. With each conscious inhalation, you say to your mind, "Come back. It's okay. Just be here." For this one breath, with each gentle exhalation, till you let go of the pull of yesterday and the push of tomorrow, you are training yourself, with infinite patience, to inhabit the only moment you will ever have, this one. Let us practice this together now. Gently, wherever you are. Allow your body to be comfortable. Allow your eyes to softly close, and bring your awareness, once again, to that quiet rhythm of the breath. Let's rest our attention at the tip of the nose. Simply notice the subtle sensations as the air flows in, and as it flows out, you might feel a slight tingling, a coolness on the inhalation, a warmth on the exhalation. Just rest here, like a gatekeeper watching people come and go, without judgment, without comment. simply watching. The breath flows in, the breath flows out. Sooner or later, and probably sooner, your mind will wander away. It will be distracted by a sound, a memory, a plan for tomorrow. This is not a mistake. It is not a failure. It is simply the nature of the mind to wander. When you notice that your attention has drifted, acknowledge it gently. You might even say to yourself, silently, wandering or thinking, and then, with the kindness you would show to a small child or a beloved pet, gently, patiently, guide your awareness back to the sensation of the breath at the tip of the nose. This act of returning, without frustration, without self-criticism, is the heart of the practice. We are not trying to achieve a perfectly still mind. We are cultivating a kind, patient, and resilient attention. Every time you bring your mind back, you are strengthening your muscle of mindfulness. In and out, the mind wanders, and you gently guide it back. This is all there is to it. This simple, profound, and healing practice. Now, let your awareness travel with the breath. Feel it not just at the nose, but feel the entire body breathing. Feel the gentle rise of your abdomen on the in-breath, like a balloon softly inflating, and feel the gentle fall on the out-breath. A deep sense of letting go, the whole body rising and falling, like a gentle wave on the shore. Allow the breath to soothe you. Notice the intimate connection between your breath and your emotions. When you feel anxious or frightened, your breath becomes quick, shallow, caught high in the chest. Your body is preparing for a threat. When you are relaxed and at peace, your breath is naturally slow, deep, and centered in the abdomen. This connection is a two-way street. Just as your emotions can change your breath, you can consciously use your breath to soothe your emotions by intentionally breathing a little more slowly, a little more deeply into your belly. You are sending a powerful message to your nervous system. You are telling it, you are safe. There is no danger here. You can relax. You can let go. The breath becomes a lullaby. You sing to your own worried heart. There is a timeless story from the life of the Buddha, who was perhaps the greatest scientist of the mind the world has ever known. He taught countless students, from kings to farmers, and he always began with this simple foundation. He taught that when the mind is tangled in knots of worry and fear, when it is consumed by greed or by anger, you do not fight with it directly. You do not try to wrestle it into submission. Instead, you do something much simpler. You sit down, and you become aware of your own breath. He called this practice anapanasati, which simply means mindfulness of breathing. He said, breathing in a long breath. One nose. I am breathing in a long breath. Breathing out a long breath. One nose. I am breathing out a long breath. Breathing in a short breath. One nose. I am breathing in a short breath. Breathing out a short breath. One nose. I am breathing out a short breath. There is no complex philosophy here. There is only a direct, unwavering attention to what is actually happening. This was his fundamental instruction, the root from which the entire tree of wisdom grows, because he understood that if you can learn to be present with your own breath, you can learn to be present with anything life brings you. It is your training ground for peace, your refuge in every storm, a friend that never leaves your side. So as you rest here, Continue to allow your attention to be held by this gentle rhythm. Let it be the most interesting thing in the world right now. Let it be your anchor, holding you in the calm, quiet harbor of the present moment. It asks nothing of you, only that you notice it. It is always here, waiting patiently to bring you back home. Now that we have found our anchor, our point of stability in the breath, let us turn our gentle awareness to the very ocean that it helps us navigate, the ceaseless current that we call the mind, the great and often turbulent river of our thoughts. Having found our anchor in the breath, we now have a place of stability, a safe harbor from which to observe the weather of the mind. And so, with gentle curiosity, let us turn our attention to the very nature of that weather. Imagine your mind, your consciousness, is not a thing, but a place. Imagine it is a vast and ancient river, flowing endlessly through the landscape of your being. This river has been flowing since you were born, and it will continue to flow until your very last breath. It is not good or bad. It simply is. Sometimes, after a cleansing rain, the river flows clear and calm. The water is cool and you can see the smooth stones on the riverbed. These are the days of mental clarity, of peace and focus. At other times, the river is a raging torrent, thick with mud and debris, churning with the force of a storm. These are the days of anxiety, confusion, or anger. Within this river, everything is carried along by the current. There are thoughts, clear and distinct like fallen leaves. There are memories, some sharp and painful like broken branches, others soft and beautiful like floating blossoms. There are fragments of music, images from a dream, conversations you had yesterday, and worries about 100 different tomorrows. All of it is in the river, constantly moving, constantly changing. Our lifelong habit, the unconscious pattern that causes us so much distress, has been to live in this river. The moment a thought appears, we do not simply notice it. We leap into the water after it. If it is a pleasant thought, a happy memory, or a daydream of success, we jump in and try to hold on to it, swimming desperately against the current to keep it with us, only to feel sad when it inevitably floats away. If it is an unpleasant thought, a worry, a self-criticism, a painful memory, we jump in to fight it. We wrestle with it. We try to push it under the water, to destroy it, to argue with it. But fighting with something in a river only creates more turbulence, more splashing, more chaos. In both cases, whether chasing pleasure or fighting pain, we are no longer aware that we are separate from the river. We have become the current. We are drenched, exhausted, and completely at the mercy of whatever comes floating by next. This is the state we call being lost in thought. We are not thinking, rather, we are being thought. We have forgotten the stable ground of the riverbank and are instead drowning in the stream of our own consciousness. The practice of mindfulness offers a radical, yet profoundly simple, alternative. It invites us to step out of the river. It asks us to find a comfortable spot on the soft, grassy bank, perhaps leaning against a strong, ancient tree, with our anchor of the breath keeping us steady. From this place of safety and stability, our job is no longer to control the river, but simply to watch it flow by, You sit on the bank, and you watch the contents of your mind drift past. A thought about a work project appears upstream. You see it. You acknowledge its presence, and you watch as it floats by and disappears around the bend downstream. Then a memory of your childhood appears. You watch that too, without needing to cling to it or analyze it. Then a wave of sadness or a flash of irritation. You watch it all, with the detached, gentle curiosity of a scientist observing a natural phenomenon. You are no longer in the water. You are the witness on the shore. To help with this, you can use a gentle technique of labeling. Imagine each item floating in the river has a small, invisible tag. As a thought about what you need to do tomorrow arises, you can silently, softly, label it in your mind, planning, not, "Oh no, I have so much to do. I'm so stressed," but simply, planning. A memory from the past appears. You label it, remembering. A judgment about yourself floats by. You label it, judging. A feeling of restlessness arises in the body. You label it, feeling. This labeling is not meant to be another layer of thinking. It is a tool of recognition. It creates a tiny bit of space between you, the observer, and the thought or feeling being observed. It prevents you from getting entangled. It reinforces your position on the riverbank. The tone of this labeling is crucial. It must be a tone of utter kindness and neutrality. It is like a naturalist identifying birds. Ah, a robin. Ah, a sparrow. There is no judgment. There is no preference. There is only gentle, accepting observation. You are simply noticing the nature of your own mind, without needing it to be any different than it is. As you continue this practice of sitting on the riverbank, something extraordinary begins to happen. You come to a profound and liberating realization. You are not the river. You are not the thoughts. You are not the emotions. You are not the debris floating in the water. You are the silent, spacious, unwavering awareness that is watching it all. Your thoughts are like clouds passing through the vast, open sky of your mind. You are the sky, not the clouds. The clouds come and go. Some are dark and stormy. Others are white and fluffy. But no matter how turbulent the clouds become, they can never stain or harm the sky itself. The sky remains untouched, ever present, peaceful. Realizing this is the beginning of true freedom. The angry thought is just a thought. It is not you. The anxious thought is just a thought. It is not you. The sad memory is just a memory. It is not you. They are temporary events passing through the vast space of your awareness. When you know this, they begin to lose their power over you. You no longer need to believe every thought that enters your mind. You can see them for what they are, fleeting mental energy, bubbles rising to the surface of the river, clouds drifting through the sky. There is a simple story that illustrates this perfectly. A young apprentice, deeply distressed, went to his old Zen master. He said, "Master, I cannot meditate. My mind is a wild beast. It is filled with thoughts that I cannot stop. They torment me day and night." The master listened patiently, then led the young man outside and down a path to a roaring river. He pointed to the water and said, "You have been living your whole life in that water, being thrown about by the current. You have been trying to stop this river from flowing. Can you do it?" The young man looked at the powerful river and said, "Of course not. Master, that's impossible. The master smiled gently. Exactly, he said. Your task is not to stop the river. That is the work of a fool. Your task is to come out of the water. Sit here on the bank with me and simply learn to watch it flow. The river of your mind is no different. Do not fight it. Do not try to stop it. Just sit, breathe, and watch. So I invite you now to take your seat on the riverbank of your own mind. Let the anchor of your breath hold you steady. Let the river of thought, feelings, and sensations flow as it will. There is no need to control it. No need to fix it. No need to empty it. Simply watch. Watch it all with a gentle, accepting, and compassionate gaze. Give your mind permission to be exactly as it is. This is the path to peace. It is not found in a silent mind, but in a mind that is observed with silence. As we continue to sit on this peaceful riverbank, however, we might start to notice something curious. We might notice that while most thoughts float by like leaves, some are more like heavy, waterlogged logs. They are sticky. They snag on the banks of our awareness, and we feel a powerful urge to jump back into the river, to grab them, to engage with them, to hold on to them, whether they bring us pleasure or pain. What is this sticky quality? What gives these particular thoughts their immense power over us? This question leads us directly to the heart of our unease, to the very root of our suffering. It leads us to explore the powerful, subtle, and universal human experience of clinging and attachment. As we sit here, on the quiet bank of our own mind, watching the river of thoughts flow by, we notice its nature. We see memories, plans, and feelings drift past. And yet, as we observed, some of these are not like light leaves that float by easily. Some are like heavy, waterlogged logs. They are sticky. They command our attention. A critical comment from a week ago, a worry about a future event, a longing for a moment that has passed. These are the thoughts that pull us back into the turbulent water. Again and again, this stickiness, this quality of being caught, points us toward a fundamental truth about our human experience. A truth the Buddha called dukkha. This ancient word is often translated as suffering, but its meaning is far more subtle, more pervasive than just overt pain. Think of it as a low-level, background hum of unsatisfactoriness. It is the feeling that things are not quite right, the subtle tension in the shoulders, the quiet restlessness that follows us even on good days. It's the feeling of always wanting something more, or something different. This is the water in which we swim, the very source of our dis-ease, and the first noble truth. The first great insight of the Buddha was simply to acknowledge this reality with courage and honesty, to see that this undercurrent of unsatisfactoriness is a fundamental part of our unawakened experience. But this was not a pessimistic declaration. It was the diagnosis of a great physician, because once a condition is diagnosed, its cause can be found, and in finding the cause, we can find the cure. This brings us to the second great insight. The cause of this pervasive unsatisfactoriness is a habit so deeply ingrained in us that we barely notice it. The cause is upadana, an ancient word that means clinging, grasping, or attachment. The source of our struggle is not the river itself, not the thoughts or feelings that flow through our minds. The source of our struggle is our desperate, white-knuckled attempt to control the river, We suffer because we cling. We see a moment of joy, a feeling of love, a word of praise, and we grasp onto it with all our might, trying to freeze it in time, terrified of it ending, and because all things must end, our clinging inevitably leads to disappointment. We see an experience of pain, a difficult emotion, a moment of failure, and we cling to our aversion of it. We push it away. We fight it. We deny it, creating immense tension in our refusal to accept what is already present. Notice that both are forms of clinging to what we like, and clinging to our hatred of what we don't like. We are constantly trying to hold on to the pleasant and push away the unpleasant, a futile struggle against the natural flow of life that exhausts our spirit and perpetuates our feeling of being at war with reality. This habit of clinging manifests in every area of our lives. We cling to material things, our home, our money, the objects we accumulate. We believe they will provide lasting security and happiness, so we live with a subtle fear of them being lost or damaged. And we feel a deep sense of loss when they are gone. We cling to our relationships, not with a healthy love, but with a grasping need, wanting others to be a certain way, to fulfill our expectations, to never change and never leave. We cling to our status and reputation, this fragile image of ourselves that we project to the world, and we are shattered by criticism or overjoyed by praise. Our inner peace held hostage by the opinions of others. Even more subtly, we cling to our views and opinions. We hold on to our beliefs about the world, about politics, about how things should be, as if they were solid and eternal truths, when reality presents us with something that contradicts our rigid views. We feel anger, indignation, and fear. We would rather be right than be at peace. But the deepest and most troublesome clinging of all is the clinging to the idea of a self. We cling to this story of me, this body, these feelings, these thoughts, these accomplishments. We believe there is a solid, separate, permanent I at the center of our experience that must be protected, defended, and promoted at all costs. This clinging to a self is the root of jealousy, pride, fear, and loneliness. It is the primary filter that distorts our perception of the world and separates us from the wholeness of life. To hear this, one might think that the solution is to become cold and detached, to care about nothing, but this is a profound misunderstanding. The art of letting go is not apathy. It is not indifference or resignation. It is the exact opposite. It is an act of supreme wisdom, courage, and love. Imagine you are holding a small slot, beautiful bird in your hand. If you cling to it, if you squeeze your fist tightly for fear that it will fly away, you will crush it. You will destroy the very thing you wish to keep. This is attachment. Letting go is the act of gently opening your hand. You can still admire the bird's beauty. You can feel the warmth of its body. You can listen to its song, but you are not possessing it. You are allowing it to be free, and in that freedom, you discover a deeper kind of love, one that is not based on ownership or control. Letting go means allowing life to flow through you without trying to stop it or divert it. It means feeling joy fully, knowing it will pass, and feeling sorrow fully, knowing it too will pass. It is the release of a tension you didn't even know you were holding. It is the simple, profound peace of allowing things to be exactly as they are. There is a beautiful Zen story that illuminates this art perfectly. Two monks, an old, experienced one and a young novice, were on a long journey on foot. They came to a river where the bridge had been washed away. A young, beautifully dressed woman stood there, distressed, afraid to cross the churning water for fear of ruining her silken robes. Without a word, the old monk walked up to her, hoisted her onto his back, carried her across the river, and set her down gently on the other side. She bowed curtly and hurried on her way without so much as a word of thanks. The two monks continued their journey, but the young monk was fuming. He was agitated and silent for hours. How could his master do such a thing? Monks were forbidden from touching women. It was a serious breach of the rules. How could he be so reckless? Finally, hours later, as they were approaching their monastery for the night, the young monk could bear it no longer. He burst out, "Master, I must ask you, why did you do that? Why did you carry that woman across the river? You know we are not supposed to have physical contact with women. It was a terrible violation of our vows." The old monk looked at his young companion, his eyes filled with compassion. He smiled gently and said, "My dear brother, I left that woman by the riverbank hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" This story so beautifully reveals the nature of our mind. The actual event was over in minutes, but the young monk carried the mental and emotional burden of it for hours, creating his own suffering by clinging to his judgment, his anger, and his rigid ideas of right and wrong. Letting go is the simple act of putting the burden down. The past is over. We cannot change it. We can only choose to stop carrying it with us into the present moment. So look into your own mind now. What are you still carrying? An old resentment, a past failure, a word of criticism, a longing for what was? Can you see that the event itself is gone, and only your clinging to the thought of it remains? Can you, with great kindness to yourself, make the choice to set it down on the riverbank, but to truly master this art of letting go, to truly open our clenched fist? We must understand why it is so necessary, so vital. Why is clinging always a losing game? The answer is found not in our minds, but in the very fabric of reality itself. To let go wisely, we must first see clearly the nature of that which we are trying to grasp. We must turn our gentle, unwavering gaze toward the profound, liberating, and universal truth of impermanence. We have seen that our suffering arises from clinging, from our desperate attempt to hold on to the contents of our mental river. But to truly understand why this clinging is so futile, we must now turn our gaze from the river's contents to the nature of the river itself. We must look deeply into a truth so profound and so universal that it governs every atom of existence, from the life of a distant star to the duration of a single thought. This is the law of anicca, the great teaching of impermanence. It is a simple truth, observable in every moment. The sun rises, travels across the sky, and sets. The seasons turn, from the green shoots of spring to the golden decay of autumn. A cloud gathers in the sky, takes a form, and then dissolves into thin air. Nothing, absolutely nothing, is static. Everything is in a constant state of flux, of becoming and unbecoming. Life is not a collection of fixed objects, but a dynamic, ever-changing dance of energy. This is not a philosophy to be believed in, but a reality to be observed in our bodies, in our minds, and in the world around us, our deeper-seated abe, the one that generates so much of our anxiety and sorrow, is the refusal to accept this fundamental law. We live our lives as if we are trying to build a permanent stone fortress in the middle of a flowing river. We crave certainty in a world that is inherently uncertain. We want our youth and health to last forever. Even as our bodies change with every passing day, we want our moments of happiness to be permanent. Trying to fossilize a beautiful sunset or a moment of love, we want our relationships to remain fixed and predictable, resisting their natural evolution. This struggle against the very current of life is the definition of futility. It is like trying to command the tide to stop, or telling the winter it cannot come. The suffering we experience is not caused by the fact that things change. The suffering is caused by our resistance to the fact that things change. Change itself is neutral. It is our clinging to the desire for permanence that creates the pain. We are constantly tensing ourselves against the natural flow, and it is this tension, this inner battle against reality, that leaves us feeling bruised, exhausted, and disappointed. But what if we could change our relationship to this universal law? What if, instead of seeing impermanence as a threat, we could learn to see it as a source of beauty, and even a source of profound liberation? Think of a cherry blossom tree in full bloom. Its beauty is so breathtaking, so poignant, precisely because we know it is fleeting. It will not last. If the blossoms were there forever, made of plastic, we would barely glance at them. Their transient nature is what makes them precious. A piece of music is beautiful because of the flow of notes, one giving way to the next. If a single note were held forever, it would become an unbearable noise. Life's beauty is the beauty of the dance, not the beauty of a statue. By embracing impermanence, we learn to appreciate the present moment with a new depth and intensity. We can love the people in our lives more fully. Right now, knowing that everything is precious because it is temporary, we can savor a simple pleasure, like the warmth of a cup of tea, because we are fully present with its fleeting existence. And on the other side of this coin is the great liberation. The law of impermanence is a universal promise that no pain is forever. The dark clouds of sadness that fill your mind right now are, like all clouds, destined to drift and dissolve. The heavy feeling of anxiety in your chest is a temporary weather pattern, not a permanent part of your inner landscape. The difficult situation at work, the conflict in a relationship, the feeling of failure, these two are subject to the law of change. They will pass. They will evolve into something else. This is not just wishful thinking. It is the fundamental nature of reality. When you are caught in the grips of a powerful negative emotion, you can whisper to yourself, "This too is impermanent. This too shall pass." This simple reminder can be a beacon of hope in the darkest of times. It gives you the strength to endure, knowing that you are not stuck, that the prison door is not locked forever. Change is the great liberator. It ensures that life is never truly stagnant, that there is always the possibility of renewal, of a new season, of a new day. There is a classic story that wonderfully illustrates the wisdom of embracing this flow without judgment. In ancient China, there lived a poor old farmer who had a single, magnificent horse. The horse was his most prized possession, used for plowing his fields. One day, the horse broke through the fence and ran away into the mountains. All the neighbors came to console the farmer. "Oh, what terrible luck," they said. "Your only horse is gone. "This is a disaster." The farmer just shrugged his shoulders and replied, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" A few weeks later, the horse returned, and it was not alone. It had led a herd of 12 wild, strong horses back to the farmer's land. The neighbors gathered again, this time to congratulate him. "What incredible fortune," they exclaimed. "Now you are a rich man." The farmer simply smiled and said, "Good luck, bad luck, who knows?" The farmer's son then began the work of taming the wild horses. But one day, a particularly wild stallion threw him off, and the son's leg was badly broken. The neighbors came once more, shaking their heads. "How tragic," they lamented. "Your only son, now crippled. This is surely the worst luck of all." The farmer, looking at his son resting, replied calmly, "Bad luck, good luck, who knows?" A month later, the emperor's army came through the village, conscripting every able-bodied young man for a brutal war from which few would return. They took the sons of all the farmer's neighbors, but when they saw the farmer's son with his broken leg, they passed him by. This farmer understood the nature of impermanence. He understood that life is a vast, unfolding process, and we see only a tiny fragment of it at any given time. What appears to be a tragedy today may be the source of a great blessing tomorrow. What seems like a triumph may lead to unforeseen difficulties. By not clinging to rigid labels of good or bad, the farmer remained at peace amidst the constant ebb and flow of fortune. He lived on the riverbank, watching it all pass by with a wise and steady heart. This is the peace that comes from embracing change, from letting go of our need to control and define every event in our lives. As we rest with this understanding, as we begin to see the dance of impermanence in every corner of our lives, a very deep and radical question begins to surface. We have seen that everything in the world around us is in constant flow. Our body is changing with every breath. Our feelings are a fleeting weather system. Our thoughts are a ceaseless river. Everything we might point to and call me is in a state of constant flux. If everything I am is changing, then who or what is the I that is experiencing this change? If my body, my feelings, and my thoughts are all impermanent, where can a permanent to solid self be found? To explore this question is to take the next, most profound step on our journey inward. It is to look directly at the ultimate illusion that binds us, the illusion of a separate self. It is to prepare ourselves to discover the most liberating and perhaps most startling truth of all, the truth of no self. We have journeyed together to a remarkable vantage point. We have seen that our suffering comes from clinging, and that we cling because we do not see the ever-changing, impermanent nature of reality. We have sat on the bank of the great river of the mind and watched it flow. And now, this brings us to the most profound and personal question of all. If everything is in flux, if our bodies, our feelings, and our thoughts are all temporary, then who is the one who is seeing all of this? What is this I that we believe ourselves to be? Our entire life, or language, our very identity, is built upon the solid foundation of this I. I am happy. I am sad. I have a memory. I am walking down the street. It feels like the most obvious, undeniable truth in the world. But the Buddha, in his deep investigation of reality, invited us to look closer, to question this most basic assumption with gentle, fearless curiosity. And what he discovered is perhaps the most liberating, and at first, the most startling insight of all. This is the truth of anatta, or no self. Now, it is crucial that we understand what this means. The teaching of no self is not a declaration that you do not exist. It is not a cold, nihilistic philosophy that says, you are nothing, look at yourself. Of course you exist. You are here, breathing, listening, living. The teaching of anatta is far more subtle and beautiful. It states that within this living, breathing experience, there is no permanent, unchanging, independent core that we can point to and call a self. The I that we feel is so solid, is not a thing, but a process. It is not a noun, but a verb. It is a constantly shifting, changing constellation of physical and mental energies. Think of a beautiful, powerful wave rising from the ocean. The wave has a distinct form, a lifespan, a unique caractère. We can point to it and say, there is a wave, but is the wave separate from the ocean? Is there a wave soul that is independent of the water? Of course not. The wave is simply the ocean itself, rising and falling in a particular form for a short time. It is water, waving, in the same way. What we call ourself is not a separate entity living in the universe. It is the universe itself, experiencing life in this particular form. For a short time, we are life, living. To make this clearer, we can gently dissect our own experience. Just as a biologist would look at a flower under a microscope, the Buddha taught that what we call a person is a temporary collection of 5 flowing processes, known as the 5 aggregates. Let's look for ourself in them. First, there is the body, the aggregate of form. Is this myself? It seems so. But this body is in a constant state of change. The food I ate yesterday becomes my cells today. My body at 70 will be vastly different from my body at 7. It is a process, not a fixed thing. So the self cannot be the body. Second, there is the aggregate of feelings or sensations, pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feelings are flowing through us all the time. Is myself my happiness? If so, what happens when I am sad? Is myself my pain? If so, who am I when the pain is gone? Feelings are fleeting weather patterns. They cannot be a permanent self. Third, there is perception, the process of recognizing and labeling. The eye sees a shape, and the mind labels it tree. The ear hears a sound and labels it music. But perceptions depend on our sense organs and the objects outside us. They too are constantly changing. They cannot be the self. Fourth, and this is where it gets tricky, are the mental formations. These are our thoughts, our ideas, our opinions, our habits, our moods, our intentions. This is the chattering voice in our head that we so often identify as me, but as we have already seen, this is nothing but a river. Thoughts arise, they linger for a moment, and they vanish. An opinion I held 10 years ago may seem foolish to me now. My intentions change from moment to moment. This stream is far too turbulent and unreliable to be a solid, unchanging self. Finally, there is consciousness itself, the raw awareness that knows the other 4 aggregates. There is seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, thinking consciousness, Surely this must be the self, but even consciousness, when we look closely, is not a single, continuous thing. It arises in dependence on an object. Seeing arises when an I and a form come together. It is not a constant and dependent light, but a series of sparks that flicker in and out of existence with every passing moment. So we look at our body, our feelings, our perceptions, our thoughts, and our awareness, and we cannot find a single, solid, permanent thing to call a self. What we call our self is like a rainbow, a beautiful phenomenon that appears when certain conditions are present, but with no inherent, independent existence of its own. There is a famous and brilliant dialogue from an ancient Buddhist text that captures this perfectly. A Greek king named Milinda, a man known for his sharp intellect, came to visit a wise Buddhist sage named Nagasena. After the initial greetings, King Milinda asked, "What is your name?" "Venerable sir," the sage replied, "I am known as Nagasena, your master, but this is only a designation, a name in common use. In the ultimate sense, there is no permanent person to be found here." The king was intrigued and began to challenge him, pointing to the magnificent chariot that had brought him. He asked, "Venerable Nagasena, if there is no person, then who is it that wears these robes and eats this food? Let me ask you about this chariot. Is the long pole of the chariot the chariot?" "No, your master," said Nagasena. "Are the wheels the chariot?" "No, your master." "Is the frame, or the ropes, or the yoke the chariot?" "No, your master." The king continued, naming every part of the chariot and receiving the same answer each time. Finally, he asked, "Then are all of these parts combined the chariot?" "No, your master," Nagasena replied. "Then is there something outside of these parts that is the chariot?" "No, your master." The king laughed. "Venerable sir, you are speaking a falsehood. There is no chariot." But Nagasena remained calm. He turned the question back to the king. "Your master, you are a great king. How did you arrive here today?" "I came in the chariot," the king replied. "You see," said Nagasena, "chariot is a convenient name we give when all the parts are assembled and working together. The word is a useful designation, but there is no separate, independent chariot soul to be found. It is empty of any such essence. In just the same way, Nagasena is the convenient name I am given when this body, these feelings, these perceptions, these thoughts, and this consciousness are all working together. But if you search for a permanent, unchanging master of the house, you will not find one. When we first hear this, it can feel like a loss. But if we stay with it, we realize it is the greatest liberation imaginable. The idea of a separate self is a prison. It is the root of our loneliness, our fear of death, our selfishness, our need to be better than others. It is an exhausting, lifelong project to defend and promote this imaginary me. To see through this illusion is to be freed from this prison. And what lies on the other side is not nothingness, but everythingness. It is the realization of profound interconnection. If I am not a separate self, then I am not separate from you. I am not separate from the air I breathe, or the food I eat, or the earth that supports me. The walls of the I dissolve, revealing a boundless field of relationship. We see that we are not islands, but waves in the same ocean, leaves on the same tree of life. This is not a loss of self, but a radical expansion of self to include all that is. When the walls of the separate self begin to crumble, the heart, freed from its small cage of I, me, and mine, naturally opens outward. The barrier between my happiness and your happiness becomes thin, transparent. Your suffering is no longer a distant event. It touches my own heart. This deep, intuitive seeing of our shared existence is the very soil from which true, boundless, and unconditional love can finally grow. It is the natural starting point for cultivating the radiant warmth of the boundless heart, the heart of loving kindness, having journeyed through the great, liberating insight of our interconnectedness, of anatta. We arrive at the natural response of the heart. When the artificial walls of the separate self begin to dissolve, the feeling of otherness softens. We start to see that we are not isolated islands, but waves in a single, magnificent ocean of being. The intuitive response to this profound realization is a boundless, unconditional friendliness toward all of existence. The active cultivation of this heartfelt friendliness is the practice of metta, a beautiful ancient word that translates as loving kindness. It is important to understand what metta is and what it is not. It is not the sentimental, romantic love that we often see in films, which is frequently based on attachment and a desire for someone to make us happy. It is not a transactional love, given on the condition that we receive something in return. Metta is something far more expansive and pure. It is a selfless, radiant warmth, a benevolent wish for the genuine happiness and well-being of all beings, without exception and without expecting anything back. It is like the light and warmth of the sun. The sun does not choose who to shine upon. It shines equally on the beautiful flower and the jagged rock, on the saint and the sinner, on the friend and the enemy. It simply radiates its life-giving warmth, because that is its nature. The practice of metta is the practice of cultivating a sun-like heart. But as with all great journeys, we must begin where we are. We cannot offer water to the thirsty from an empty well. Therefore, the practice of metta always begins with ourselves. For many of us, this is the most difficult step. We are so conditioned to find fault with ourselves, to replay our mistakes, to live with a harsh inner critic who constantly tells us we are not good enough. To offer loving kindness to ourselves can feel awkward, selfish, or even impossible. But this is not an act of ego or narcissism. It is a fundamental act of healing. It is about treating ourselves with the same basic decency and friendship that we would offer to someone we truly care about. It is the recognition that we, too, are a living being deserving of happiness, safety, and peace. So, let us begin this practice now. In this very moment, allow your body to be comfortable, your breath to be gentle and natural, and now, bring your awareness to the center of your chest, the area of your heart. You might even place a hand there to feel the warmth and the gentle rhythm of life within you. And here, in this quiet space, we will silently offer ourselves some phrases of kindness. Let them be a gentle balm for your own weary heart. Silently, repeat after me, letting the feeling behind the words soak into your being. May I be safe. May I be free from inner and outer harm. May I be healthy. May my body and mind be strong and well. May I be happy. May I feel the joy of being alive. May I live with ease. May I accept myself just as I am. And may my life be peaceful. Do not worry if you don't feel a great wave of emotion. Simply plant these seeds of kindness in the soil of your own heart. Gently and patiently, repeat them over and over, like a gentle, loving lullaby for your own soul. Now, keeping this warm feeling for yourself, let us expand the circle of loving kindness. Bring to mind someone for whom you have easy, uncomplicated feelings of affection. This could be a dear friend, a beloved family member, a mentor, or even a pet. Picture them in your mind's eye. See them smiling and happy. Feel the natural warmth you have for them in your heart. And now, direct the beam of your loving kindness toward them, using the same heartfelt phrases. May you be safe. May you be free from all danger. May you be healthy. May your body and mind be filled with well-being. May you be happy. May your heart be filled with joy. May you live with ease. May your life unfold with grace and peace. Imagine them receiving this warmth, this benevolent energy. See it touching their heart, bringing a smile to their face. Rest here for a few moments, simply basking in this shared feeling of goodwill. Next, we expand the circle again. Bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you see in your daily life, but for whom you feel neither strong liking nor disliking. It could be the cashier at your local market, the person who delivers your mail, a colleague you don't know well. Often, we walk through our day barely acknowledging these people as fellow conscious beings. In this practice, we see them fully, bring their face to mind, and with the same sincerity, offer them the gift of your metta. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. In doing this, we are training our heart to be unconditionally kind, to offer friendliness simply because another being is there, not because of what they can do for us. We are breaking down the habit of indifference. Now comes the most transformative, and sometimes the most challenging step. We will extend our loving kindness to a difficult person. Bring to mind someone with whom you have a conflict, someone who has hurt you or caused you frustration. Start with someone only mildly difficult, not the source of your greatest trauma. This practice is not about condoning their harmful actions or forcing a reconciliation. It is about freeing your own heart from the poison of resentment and anger, which harms you far more than it harms them. See this person and try to see the suffering in them that might cause them to act as they do. See their shared humanity, and, for the sake of your own peace, offer them these wishes. May you be free from your own suffering. May you find the peace that you are looking for. May you too be happy. May your heart be healed. If this feels too difficult, that is perfectly okay. You can simply say, "To the best of my ability, I wish you well." This act is a profound gift you give to yourself, the gift of letting go of a heavy burden. Finally, let us allow our heart to become boundless. Imagine the warmth in your chest is now a radiant sphere of golden light. Let this light expand from your heart, filling the room you are in, touching everyone in your home. Let it continue to expand, filling your entire neighborhood, your city, your country. See this light of loving kindness touching all people. young and old, happy and sad, friend and stranger. Let it continue to expand, covering the entire earth. See it touching all the animals, the birds in the sky, the creatures in the deep ocean, the insects in the grass. Extend it to all beings in all realms of existence, seen and unseen. Hold the entire universe in your loving embrace and offer this one, all-encompassing wish. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. May all beings live with peace and ease. Rest in this boundless state, the state of a heart that knows no barriers. This practice is the most powerful antidote we have to the poisons of anger, jealousy, fear, and loneliness. It literally rewires our brain, creating new neural pathways of connection and kindness. It is a force, a tangible energy that has the power to transform not only ourselves, but the world around us. There is a powerful story that illustrates this. The Buddha's jealous cousin, Devadatta, in an attempt to usurp him, arranged for a ferocious elephant named Nalagiri to be intoxicated and set loose on the path where the Buddha was walking. As the enraged elephant charged, trumpeting furiously, the Buddha's followers panicked and fled. But the Buddha stood his ground. He did not raise a weapon or shout a command. He simply looked at the charging beast and flooded his own heart with a powerful, unwavering wave of pure metta. He radiated an immense field of unconditional loving kindness toward the animal. The elephant, a creature that operates on pure instinct, felt this powerful wave of goodwill. It was something utterly foreign to its state of rage. As it got closer, it began to slow down. The fury in its eyes softened. It stopped, and then, completely disarmed by the Buddha's powerful love, it knelt down before him and was calm. This is the power of metta. It is not a weak or sentimental feeling. It is a shield and a balm, a transformative force of immense strength. This radiant loving kindness is the beautiful wish for all beings to find happiness. It is the sun in our own heart, but a question naturally arises. What happens when this warm, open, sun-like heart shines its light upon a being who is not just neutral, but who is actively suffering? What happens when this boundless goodwill comes face to face with the reality of pain, sorrow, and despair at that very moment? If the heart is open, loving kindness undergoes a sacred and profound transformation. It blossoms into its sister quality, the quality that makes the heart tremble with the desire to reach out and relieve that pain. It becomes the active, engaged heart of true compassion. As the sun of loving kindness rises in our hearts, its warmth naturally extends to all corners of existence. We cultivate the sincere wish for all beings to be happy. But life, in its infinite complexity, is not only comprised of happiness. In our own lives, and in the lives of everyone we meet, there is also pain. There is loss, sickness, disappointment, and fear. What happens then when the warm light of metta shines upon the undeniable reality of suffering? In that sacred moment of contact, loving kindness undergoes a profound and beautiful alchemy. It transforms into its active and engaged sister quality, karuna. This is the great virtue of compassion. If metta is the wish for another to be happy, karuna is the wish for another to be free from suffering. The ancient texts describe it beautifully as the trembling or quivering of the heart in the face of pain. It is that visceral, gut-level response we feel when we witness another's distress. It is the spontaneous impulse to reach out, to soothe, to help, to alleviate the burden of another being. It is the heart's active, courageous, and tender response to the existence of pain in the world. It is vital, however, to distinguish true compassion from its distant cousin. Pity, though it may seem similar, often comes from a place of separation and superiority. When we pity someone, we stand at a distance, looking down upon their misfortune. Pity says, "Oh, you poor thing. I am so glad that I am not in your position." Pity reinforces the wall between me and you, between the helper and the one who is broken. It can make the person suffering feel even more isolated. Compassion, on the other hand, is born from the insight of our shared humanity, from the very interconnectedness we have explored. Compassion arises from a place of equality. It steps down from any high ground, meets the other person eye to eye, and says, "I see your pain. I don't know exactly what it's like to be you, but I know what it's like to suffer. Your pain touches my heart because we are part of the same human family." Pity creates distance, but compassion builds a bridge. It closes the gap between us, fostering a sense of solidarity and true connection. It is the radical act of recognizing the suffering of another as inseparable from our own potential to suffer. And just as loving kindness must begin with ourselves, so too must compassion. We cannot be a source of comfort for others if our own hearts are a battlefield of self-criticism and judgment. Self-compassion is the practice of turning the tender heart of karuna inward. It is about how we relate to ourselves in our moments of failure, pain, and inadequacy. Our conditioned response is often one of harshness. When we make a mistake, a voice inside says, "You're an idiot. How could you do that?" When we are hurting, that voice might say, "Just get over it. Stop being so weak." Self-compassion offers a revolutionary alternative. It invites us to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer to a dear friend who was struggling. Imagine your best friend came to you, heartbroken after a failure. Would you berate them, or would you put an arm around them and say, "This is so hard. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's okay to feel this way. You are still a good person." Self-compassion is the simple act of offering this same friendship to ourselves. It's pausing in a moment of pain to say, "This hurts," acknowledging the reality of the pain, and then, "How can I care for myself right now? What do I need?" Perhaps it's a cup of tea, a walk in nature, or simply permission to cry and feel what we are feeling without judgment. This is not self-pity or self-indulgence. It is a source of immense emotional strength and resilience, the very foundation upon which our ability to care for others is built. When our hearts are fortified with this self-compassion, our acts of compassion toward others become more authentic and sustainable, and these actions do not always need to be grand or dramatic. We often think of compassion as running into a burning building or donating large sums of money, and while these are certainly compassionate acts, the daily practice of karuna is usually far more quiet and subtle. Perhaps the most profound act of compassion we can offer another human being is the gift of our full, non-judgmental presence. It is the practice of deep listening, not with the intent to reply, not to fix their problem or offer advice, but simply to provide a safe, accepting space where they can unpack their own heart. In a world where everyone is waiting for their turn to speak, to offer our silent, focused, and loving attention is a radical act of kindness. It is to sit with someone in their darkness without needing to turn on the light, letting our presence be a quiet testament that they are not alone. This shared presence is a powerful balm for the suffering of isolation. There is no story that illustrates the birth of true compassion more powerfully than that of a woman named Kisa Gotami. She lived in the time of the Buddha, and she doted on her only child, en enfant. One day, the child fell ill and died. Kisa Gotami was consumed by a grief so profound that it drove her mad, denying the reality of his death. She clasped the small, cold body to her chest and ran through her village, going from house to house, begging everyone she met for a medicine that could bring her son back to life. Most people dismissed her as crazy or looked away in pity, but one wise man, seeing her immense suffering, directed her to the one person he thought could help. Go to the Buddha, he said. He is the great physician. He may have a medicine for you. Kisa Gotami ran to the Buddha and fell at his feet, pleading with him to restore her son. The Buddha looked at her, not with pity, but with an ocean of compassion. He did not dismiss her plea. He said to her, "There is only one medicine that can help you, but to make it, I need a special ingredient. I need you to go back into the village and bring me a single handful of mustard seeds from a house where no one has ever died." Filled with a surge of desperate hope, Kisa Gotami rushed back to the village. She knocked on the first door. "The Buddha has sent me," she said. "I need a handful of mustard seeds to make a medicine for my son." The kind woman of the house said, "Of course, please, take all you need." As she was about to take the seeds, Kisa Gotami remembered the Buddha's condition. Just one moment. She asked, "Has anyone in this house, a parent, a child, a spouse, a servant, ever died?" The woman's face fell. "Oh, my dear," she said softly, "the living are few, but the dead are many. My husband died just last year." With a heavy heart, Kisa Gotami went to the next house, and the next, and the next. The story was the same everywhere. Every family was happy to give her the seeds, but every family had been touched by death. One had lost a parent, another a sister, another a child. As the day wore on, her frantic, personal grief began to transform. She was holding her own immense sorrow, but now she was also hearing the story of the sorrow of an entire village. She began to realize that her pain, which had felt so singular and isolating, was in fact the shared, universal experience of all humanity. Her heart, which had been closed tight around her own loss, began to break open with a new understanding. The sharp, piercing arrow of my suffering became the vast, open field of our suffering. She finally went to the charnel ground, laid her son's body to rest, and returned to the Buddha, not with the mustard seeds, but with a heart transformed by wisdom. She had found the medicine not for her son, but for herself. It was the medicine of compassion, born from the direct seeing of our shared human condition. This is the nature of karuna. It is the heart's ability to stay open in the presence of pain, and to recognize our common bond through that very vulnerability. But as we open ourselves more and more to the suffering of the world, a new challenge can arise. We risk becoming overwhelmed, tired of drowning in the sorrow we witness. This is sometimes called empathic distress or compassion fatigue. To be a true beacon of hope for others, our tender heart must be protected. How do we care deeply without burning out? How do we remain engaged without losing our own center? For the trembling heart of compassion to be sustainable, it requires the support of its essential and wise partner, a mind that is spacious, balanced, and unshakable, no matter what storms may rage. This brings us to the crucial practice of cultivating that profound inner stability, the serene and powerful state of equanimity. We have opened our hearts with the warmth of loving kindness, and we have learned to meet suffering with the tender quiver of compassion. We have made ourselves vulnerable, in the most beautiful way, to the great joys and sorrows of the world. But as we stand with this open, undefended heart, we face a crucial challenge. If we are not careful, the sheer scale of the world's suffering can become a flood that overwhelms us. The tender heart can become a burnt-out heart. To love limitlessly and to care deeply in a sustainable way, the soft qualities of loving kindness and compassion must be supported by a profound inner strength. They require a foundation that is stable, grounded, and unshakable. This foundation is the fourth of the great heart practices, the sublime quality of upekkha, or equanimity. It is the crowning jewel of a balanced heart, a deep and spacious peace that remains undisturbed amidst the turbulent winds of life. These winds are said to be eightfold: pleasure and its opposite, pain, gain and its opposite, loss, praise and its opposite, blame and fame and its opposite, disrepute. Life will constantly blow these winds upon us. Equanimity is the practice of becoming the calm, majestic mountain that is not moved by them, allowing them to blow past without losing its serene and dignified presence. It is absolutely essential to understand that equanimity is not, and never is, cold indifference. This is the most common misunderstanding. Indifference is a state of shutting down, of refusing to feel. It is a defense mechanism born of fear, a way of saying, "I don't care," in order to avoid being hurt. Indifference builds a wall around the heart. Equanimity, by contrast, is the state of a heart that is completely open, but also completely spacious and free. It is a radical acceptance of reality, born not of fear, but of profound wisdom. It arises from the deep, intuitive understanding of the truths we have already explored, the truth of impermanence, anicca, and the truth of our interconnectedness, anatta. Because we understand that all things are in flux, we are not shocked when pleasure fades or when loss occurs, because we know that praise and blame are just the fleeting opinions of others. We do not let them define our inner state, because we see that we cannot ultimately control the outcomes of life or the choices of other people. We can love and help freely, without being attached to the results. Equanimity is not a stone heart that feels nothing. It is a spacious heart that has room for everything: joy, sorrow, success, failure, allowing it all to arise and pass away without clinging and without resistance. This wisdom is what fuels our ability to offer true, sustainable compassion. A compassionate heart without equanimity can easily lead to burnout. We see suffering, we rush in with a desperate need to fix it, and we become frustrated, exhausted, or even resentful when the other person doesn't heal on our timeline or in the way we expect. We become attached to being the helper and to seeing a positive outcome. But with equanimity, our compassion is transformed. We can offer our help, our presence, and our love wholeheartedly. But we release our attachment to the result. We understand that every person is on their own journey, and we cannot walk it for them. We can only walk alongside them, offering our support and our love. We do our best, and we let go of the rest. This is a love that is truly free, a love that doesn't burden others with our expectations. It allows us to be a steady, calming presence for those in turmoil, because we are not being tossed about by their storm. We are anchored in the deep, quiet stillness of our own balanced mind. We can practice cultivating this balance in the small moments of our daily lives. When someone offers you a compliment or praise, notice the pleasant feeling that arises. Enjoy it, but don't cling to it. Don't let it inflate your ego. Simply see it as a pleasant breeze passing through, and let it go. Likewise, when someone criticizes you or blames you, notice the sting, the unpleasant feeling that arises. Allow yourself to feel it without pushing it away, but also without building a huge story of resentment around it. See it, too, as just an unpleasant wind passing by. Your inner worth is not determined by the shifting winds of other people's opinions. When you achieve something, a gain in your life, feel the joy of it. Be grateful, but hold it lightly, knowing that the nature of life involves both gain and loss. When you experience loss, allow yourself the space to grieve, to feel the sadness fully, but hold that sadness within the vast, compassionate space of your equanimous heart, knowing that this too is part of the great, flowing river of life. The practice is to meet all of life's experiences, the pleasant and the unpleasant, with the same spacious, non-reactive, and kind awareness. There is a powerful Zen story that perfectly embodies this profound state of being. In a small village lived a Zen master named Hakuin, who was deeply revered by the local people for his pure and simple life. Next door to him lived a family with a beautiful teenage daughter. One day, the parents discovered their daughter was pregnant. They were furious and demanded to know who the father was. Terrified and unwilling to name her lover, a young man who worked at the fish market, she blurted out the name of the one person she thought was above reproach, the master. Hakuin, the parents, in a blind rage, stormed over to the monastery. They screamed at Hakuin, shaming him in front of his disciples, telling him he was a hypocrite and a disgrace. His reputation, built over a lifetime, was destroyed in an instant. Through all the shouting and accusations, Hakuin remained perfectly calm. When they finally ran out of breath, he looked at them and said only, "Is that so?" When the child was born, the parents, full of contempt, brought the baby and thrust it into Hakuin's arms. "This is your responsibility now," they sneered, and left without complaint. Hakuin accepted the child. He had lost all his followers and his source of support, but he managed to find milk from his neighbors and whatever else was needed, caring for the infant with immense tenderness and love. He treated the baby as a precious gift. A year passed. The young mother, tormented by her conscience and the sight of the master's struggle, could no longer bear the weight of her lie. She confessed to her parents that the real father was the young man from the fish market. The parents were utterly horrified. They were overcome with shame and remorse for what they had done. They immediately rushed to Hakuin, bowing low to the ground, crying, begging for his forgiveness. They explained the whole story and asked to have the child back. Hakuin listened to their confession and their apologies without a word of reproach. He simply went, picked up the child, and handed it back to them. And as he did so, he said, with the same calm and spacious heart, "Is that so?" Hakuin's heart was not made of stone. He showed immense compassion in caring for the baby, but his inner peace was not dependent on the winds of praise or blame. When he was accused, he didn't become defensive. When he was vindicated, he didn't become triumphant. He remained in the calm, quiet center of the storm, accepting reality as it unfolded. This is the unshakable peace of Upekkha. Together, these four qualities: loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy for the good fortune of others, and equanimity form the four wings of a liberated heart, allowing it to soar freely through the skies of life. This balanced, spacious mind now provides the perfect container in which to work with even the most difficult and volatile energies. But having this container does not mean that challenging emotions will never arise. What happens when, despite our practice, a flash of fiery anger erupts within this newfound space? Having a balanced mind gives us a new and more skillful way to relate to this powerful energy. We no longer need to be consumed by the fire. We can learn to meet it, understand its message, and ultimately, to transform it. This brings us to the crucial and practical art of transforming anger. We have cultivated a heart of loving kindness, compassion, and profound, spacious equanimity. We have built a beautiful, sturdy container for our emotional lives. But this does not mean that we are now immune to the full spectrum of human experience. This balanced mind is not a fortress that keeps out difficult emotions. It is a wise and welcoming home that knows how to host them skillfully. And one of the most powerful and challenging guests that will inevitably arrive at our door is the fiery energy of anger. In Buddhist teachings, anger is often compared to a hot coal. If you want to throw a hot coal at someone, you are the one who has to pick it up first. You are the one who gets burned. Anger is a poison that we drink, hoping the other person will suffer. It consumes our peace, clouds our judgment, and damages our health long before it ever affects the person who is the object of our anger. Our goal, then, is not to pretend the fire doesn't exist, nor is it to let it burn down the entire house. Our goal is to become a wise firefighter of the mind, learning to meet this powerful energy with skill, understanding, and the intention to transform it. For most of our lives, we have been conditioned to deal with anger in one of two unskillful ways: suppression or uncontrolled expression. Suppression is the attempt to deny our anger, to push it down into the dark basement of the mind and pretend it isn't there. We tell ourselves, "I shouldn't feel this way," and we put on a brave or pleasant face. But suppressed anger does not disappear. It is energy, and it has to go somewhere. It festers within, turning into chronic resentment, bitterness, depression, or even manifesting as physical illness. It is like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes immense effort, and eventually, it will erupt to the surface with even greater and often surprising force. The other extreme is uncontrolled expression, lashing out, shouting, saying hurtful things, slamming doors. This may provide a momentary sense of release, but it is a fleeting victory that almost always leads to long-term defeat. We create a wake of suffering for others, damage our most precious relationships, and are often left with a heavy residue of guilt and regret. The path of wisdom is a middle way between these two extremes. It is the path of mindful transformation, the very first step. The moment you feel the heat of anger beginning to rise, is to practice mindfulness. This begins with the simple, silent act of recognition. As the flush of heat appears, as the story of injustice begins to form in your mind, you simply say to yourself, anger is here. This is what anger feels like. This recognition is not a judgment. It is a moment of pure seeing. In that single moment of recognition, you have already created a tiny sliver of space. You are no longer 100% identified with the anger. There is now the anger, and there is the one who is aware of the anger. You have stepped out of the center of the fire and have become the one who is observing it. The next step is to immediately drop your attention out of the story in your head, the narrative of who is right, who is wrong, what they did, what you'll say, and bring your full awareness into the raw, physical sensations of anger in your body. Where do you feel it? Is it a tightening in your jaw, a clenching in your fists, a burning sensation in your stomach, a rapid heartbeat, a pressure in your head? Get specific. Get curious. Explore these physical sensations without labeling them as bad. They are simply energy, pure and simple. And then you breathe with them. Breathe into the tightness in your shoulders. Breathe around the knot in your belly. You are not trying to breathe the anger away. You are using the breath to hold the anger with a kind, spacious, and courageous attention, like a loving mother holding a crying baby. This process allows the raw energy of the emotion to be metabolized by the body, to flow through and release, without getting hijacked by the mental story that fuels it. Once you have created this initial space with mindfulness, you can apply a direct antidote. You can pour the cool water of loving kindness, of metta, directly onto the fire. And as always, you must start with yourself. Anger is a painful state to be in. The first act of kindness is to offer it to your own suffering heart. You can say silently, "This is so painful to feel. I am suffering right now. May I be at peace. May this anger not consume me. May my heart be calm." This simple act of self-compassion soothes the initial agitation and stops you from adding a layer of self-judgment on top of the anger. When you feel a little more stable, you can attempt a more advanced practice, extending loving kindness to the person who has provoked your anger. This can be very difficult, but it is an act of profound wisdom. Try to see the suffering in that other person. People who act out of anger, who speak harsh words, are almost always deeply unhappy themselves. Happy, peaceful people do not go around causing harm. See if you can find it in your heart to wish for their suffering to end, for the very cause of their harmful behavior to be healed. You can silently say, "Just as I wish to be happy, may you also be happy. May you be free from the suffering that causes you to act in this way." This is not about condoning their behavior. It is about choosing to free your own heart from the prison of hatred. After the initial heat of the anger has subsided, you can engage a third method, the wisdom of contemplation. You can reflect on the intricate web of causes and conditions that led to this moment. You can see that this conflict did not arise out of a vacuum. It was born from a complex interplay of past events, différentes perspectives, misunderstandings, and each person's individual conditioning. When you see this complexity, the simple, black and white story of it's all their fault begins to dissolve. You can also contemplate the law of karma, understanding that if you hold on to anger and seek revenge, you are planting a seed of future suffering for yourself. But if you practice patience and understanding, you are planting a seed of future peace. This wisdom cuts the root of anger by depersonalizing the situation and showing us a bigger picture. There is a famous encounter in the Buddha's life that perfectly illustrates a transformed relationship with anger. One day, a man from a high caste, a Brahmin, heard that people were praising the Buddha and, feeling jealous and offended, he went to find him. He stood before the Buddha and unleashed a torrent of the most vile and abusive language imaginable. The Buddha did not interrupt. He simply stood there, listening with a calm, peaceful presence, until the man had finally exhausted himself and fallen silent. Then, the Buddha asked him a simple, gentle question. "My friend," he said, "tell me, if you prepare a wonderful gift for someone and you offer it to them, but they do not accept it, to whom does that gift then belong?" The Brahmin, surprised by the question, thought for a moment and replied, "Well, if they don't accept it, it would still belong to me, the one who offered it." The Buddha smiled his radiant, peaceful smile. "Exactly so, my friend," he said. "Today, you have offered me a gift of anger, insults, and abuse. I do not accept your gift." The Brahmin was stunned into silence, and in that moment, his heart was transformed by the Buddha's unshakable peace. This story teaches us a profound truth. We do not have to accept the anger that others try to give us. We have a choice. We can let it land, or we can let it remain with the sender. Through these methods of mindfulness, loving kindness, and wise contemplation, we learn to meet the fiery energy of anger, not as an enemy to be destroyed, but as a messenger to be understood. We learn to extinguish the flames before they become a wildfire. But even after the fire is out, a residue can remain. There can be the smoke of resentment, the soot of a lingering grudge that stains the heart. We have learned how to work with the heat of the emotion in the moment, but to truly cleanse the heart and restore our inner peace, we must address these leftovers. We must take one final, courageous step. We must learn the profound and healing art of letting go of the grievance itself. This brings us to explore the heavy burden of judgment and the liberating, beautiful gift of forgiveness. We have learned to work with the fire of anger, to meet its heat with the cool water of mindfulness and loving kindness. But even when the flames have died down, a smoky residue often remains, staining the heart. This residue is made of judgment and resentment. It is the heavy burden of the past that we choose to carry with us into every new day. We carry it like a sack of heavy stones on our back. Each stone is a grievance, an old hurt, an injustice we have suffered. We replay the painful scenes in our minds. We polish the stones of our resentment. We tell ourselves the story of our victimhood over and over. We believe, on some level, that by holding on to this anger, we are punishing the person who hurt us. But if we look closely, we see that they are walking around free, while we are the ones stooped over, exhausted by the immense weight of the stones we refuse to put down. This heavy sack is the burden of an unforgiving heart, and the practice of forgiveness is the simple, courageous, and profoundly liberating act of opening the sack and letting the stones fall to the ground. To begin this practice, we must first understand what forgiveness is and what it is not. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of immense inner strength. Forgiveness is not condoning or excusing harmful behavior. What happened may have been wrong, unjust, and unacceptable. Forgiveness does not wipe the slate clean or pretend the hurt didn't happen. Nor is it necessarily about reconciling with the person who harmed you. You can forgive someone completely and still wisely choose not to have them in your life. To protect yourself from further harm, forgiveness is not something you do for the other person. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself. It is an internal act. It is the conscious decision to cut the energetic cord of bitterness that binds you to the past. It is the release of your claim to a better yesterday. It is the choice to no longer allow an event from the past to control your present happiness. It is, in the simplest terms, the choice to value your own peace of mind more than you value your grievance. When we consider forgiving others, it is helpful to see it as an act of profound compassion. It is an acknowledgement of our shared, imperfect humanity. People who cause harm are almost always acting from a place of their own deep suffering, their own ignorance, fear, and pain. Hurt people hurt people. To forgive someone is to look at them, not just at their harmful action, and to recognize the wounded human being behind it. It doesn't excuse their action, but it helps us to depersonalize it. We can wish for them to be free from the very suffering that caused them to harm us in the first place. This act of compassion releases them from the role of villain in the drama of our mind. And in doing so, it frees us from our own role as victim. We take back our power. We refuse to let our inner world be defined by another person's darkness. We choose freedom. Perhaps even more challenging than forgiving others is the practice of forgiving ourselves. So many of us carry a deep burden of guilt and shame for mistakes we have made, for times we have hurt others, for ways we have failed to live up to our own ideals. We become our own harshest judge and cruelest jailer, sentencing ourselves to a lifetime of self-recrimination. But we must ask ourselves, what is the use of this self-punishment? Does it change the past? Does it help anyone in the present? The answer is no. Holding on to guilt is a form of clinging, an attachment to a past version of ourselves. Self-forgiveness is an act of radical self-compassion. It is the ability to look at our past actions with honesty, to acknowledge the harm done, to learn from the mistake, and then to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend. It is the understanding that at that time, we acted with the level of wisdom and awareness we possessed. Now we know better. To forgive ourselves is to accept our flawed, imperfect, beautiful humanity. It is to give ourselves permission to grow, to change, and to begin again. Right now, in this present moment, let us gently touch upon this practice now, not to force anything, but just to plant a seed. Find a comfortable position and bring to mind a small hurt, a minor grievance you hold against another. Don't start with your biggest trauma, just a small stone. Allow yourself to feel the pain that it caused, acknowledging its reality. Then, when you are ready, you can silently say these words in your heart. I have been carrying the burden of this resentment for long enough. I see the pain it has caused me, for the sake of my own peace, for the freedom of my own heart. I am willing to let this go. I offer you forgiveness. Now, turn this gentle attention inward. Bring to mind a mistake you have made, something for which you still carry guilt. See it clearly, without excuse, but also without harshness. And offer yourself these words: I acknowledge the mistake I made and the harm it may have caused. I did the best I could with the understanding I had then. I have learned from this. For the sake of my own well-being, I offer myself full and complete forgiveness. Breathe in, and as you breathe out, imagine the heavy stones dissolving into dust and being carried away by the wind. The power of forgiveness and transformation is perhaps best illustrated by the incredible story of a man named Angulimala. He was a terrifying serial killer who roamed the forests, murdering travelers and cutting off one of their fingers to add to the gruesome garland he wore around his neck, which gave him his name, Angulimala, meaning finger garland. He was the embodiment of terror. One day, the Buddha set out to walk through Angulimala's forest alone. Angulimala saw him and was delighted, thinking, "Here is another victim for my garland." He began to run after the Buddha, but a strange thing happened. Though the Buddha was only walking at a calm, normal pace, Angulimala, running with all his might, could not catch up to him. Exhausted and confused, he shouted, "Stop! Monk, stop!" The Buddha, still walking calmly, turned his head and replied, "I have stopped, Angulimala. It is you who have not stopped." Angulimala was stunned. He asked what the Buddha meant. The Buddha explained, "I have stopped committing violence and harming living beings. You have not." In that moment, faced with the Buddha's absolute fearlessness and profound compassion, Angulimala's lifetime of rage and delusion shattered. He threw down his weapons, bowed at the Buddha's feet, and asked to become a monk. The Buddha accepted him, though Angulimala later had to endure being beaten and stoned in the streets by people who could not forgive his past. He bore it all with patient endurance. His heart now filled with peace, he eventually became a fully enlightened being, a symbol of the profound truth that no one is beyond redemption, and that the past does not have to dictate the future. By learning to forgive, by laying down the heavy stones of past judgments and resentments, both for others and for ourselves, our hearts become immeasurably lighter. We free up an incredible amount of mental and emotional energy that was being wasted on maintaining old grievances. We have cleared the inner landscape of the past, allowing for new life and new possibilities to grow. But as we stand in this newly cleared, open space, our restless minds often turn in the opposite direction, no longer haunted by the ghosts of yesterday. We begin to conjure up the phantoms of tomorrow. We begin to peer into the vast, unknown territory of the future, and in that uncertain landscape, a different kind of spectre often lurks, casting long shadows. Having made peace with our past, we must now learn how to skillfully and gently meet our anxieties about the future. This brings us to the tender practice of befriending fear. Having laid down the heavy burdens of the past through the healing gift of forgiveness, our hearts are now lighter, more spacious. But the restless mind, no longer anchored in the grievances of yesterday, often slingshots itself in the opposite direction, into the vast, uncharted territory of the future. And it is here, in the phantom landscape of what is to come, that we often meet another profound challenge to our peace. We meet the specter of fear. It is the quiet hum of anxiety that underlies our days, the voice that whispers, "What if? What if I get sick? What if I lose my job? What if this relationship ends? What if I fail? What if something happens to my loved ones?" Fear is a story we tell ourselves about a future that has not yet happened and may never happen. At its very root, fear arises from our deep, innate desire for certainty and control in a universe that is fundamentally uncertain and uncontrollable. Fear is the painful friction between our craving for a predictable, safe future and the undeniable reality that life is, and always will be, a mystery. Our habitual response to this uncomfortable friction of fear is to run away. We are masters of escape. When the feeling of anxiety arises, we immediately reach for a distraction. We lose ourselves for hours in the endless scroll of our phones. We binge-watch entire seasons of television. We fill every moment with noise and busyness, all in a desperate attempt to outrun the uncomfortable feelings inside. Or we try to fight the fear. We overplan. We micromanage. We try to control every possible outcome, creating intricate mental spreadsheets of how things should go. An exhausting and ultimately futile battle against the infinite possibilities of life. And sometimes, we simply freeze. We become paralyzed by our anxieties, unable to make a decision, unable to move forward, trapped in a cage of our own making. But all of these strategies running, fighting, or freezing gear, based on a fundamental misunderstanding. They are based on the belief that the fear is an external threat, a monster chasing us from the outside. But the truth is, the fear is not out there. It is in here, and you can never run away from a monster that lives inside your own house. The path of wisdom invites us to a gentle revolution, a courageous and profoundly healing act. It invites us to stop running. It asks us to slow down, to turn around, and to gently face the fear. This does not mean letting the fear overwhelm us. It means meeting it with the calm, steady light of our mindful awareness. The first step, as always, is simple recognition. The moment you notice the familiar tightness of anxiety, you just say to yourself, fear is present, not I am afraid, which creates a solid identity. But fear is present, which sees it as a temporary visitor, a passing weather pattern. Then, just as we did with anger, you bring your curiosity out of the catastrophic stories in your mind and into the direct, physical sensations of fear in your body. Where does it live in you? Is it a cold, hollow feeling in the pit of your stomach, a frantic, fluttering heartbeat, a constriction in your throat that makes it hard to breathe, shaky hands, or weak knees? Just notice these raw sensations with a kind, non-judgmental attention. Then, you can use your breath as a tool of comfort. Gently, you can breathe into the area of tightness, not to force it to leave, but to hold it, to create space around it. Imagine your breath is a warm, soothing balm, communicating to your nervous system. It's okay. I am here with you. You are held. As you create this safe container for the feeling, you can begin an even deeper practice, the practice of befriending your fear. Instead of treating it as an enemy to be vanquished, Try relating to it as a well-meaning but misguided friend, or perhaps a small, terrified child who lives inside you. You can even give it a name. Then, in the quiet of your own mind, you can begin a gentle dialogue. You can ask it with genuine curiosity. What are you trying to protect me from? What is the worst thing you think could happen? What do you need right now to feel safe? Listen for the answers. Often, you will discover that fear's core intention is actually positive. It is trying to keep you safe. It is an ancient, primitive part of your brain that is simply trying to protect you from harm. Its strategies are just clumsy and outdated. When you can see this, you can respond with kindness instead of frustration. You can say to your fear, "Thank you for trying so hard to protect me. I really appreciate your intention. But right now, in this present moment, I am actually okay." You can rest now by acknowledging its presence and its positive intention. You disarm its power. The fear no longer needs to scream to get your attention, because you have finally stopped to listen. Ultimately, the most powerful antidote to fear, which is always about the future, is to return to the only time that is ever real, the present moment. Fear cannot survive in the here and now. When you are fully engaged with your senses, fear dissolves. So, when you feel anxiety rising, bring yourself back home. Feel the solid ground beneath your feet. Notice the actual temperature of the air on your skin. Listen to the real sounds in the room around you. A clock ticking. A distant car. Feel the simple, reliable rhythm of your own breath, flowing in and out. This is real. The fearful stories in your head are not. The practice is simply to return, again and again and again, 1,000 times a day if necessary, to the tangible reality of the present moment. This is your sanctuary. This is your refuge. There is an old Taoist parable that speaks to this perfectly. There once was a man who was terrified of his own shadow and hated the sound of his own footsteps. He thought that if he could just run away from them, he would find peace. So he began to run, but the faster he ran, the faster his shadow followed him. The faster he ran, the louder the sound of his footsteps became. He thought, "I am not running fast enough." So he pushed himself harder and harder, running without rest, until he finally collapsed from sheer exhaustion and died. The story concludes with the simple, tragic wisdom he never discovered. If only he had walked to the shade of a large tree and sat down, his shadow would have instantly vanished. If only he had sat down and rested in silence, the sound of his footsteps would have ceased. The moral is clear and profound. Running from the contents of our own mind is a futile and exhausting race. The only way to find peace is to stop, to turn inward, and to find rest in the quiet stillness of the present moment. By learning to stop this frantic race, by turning to face our fears with a gentle and compassionate curiosity, we reclaim the power of the present moment. We discover that right here, right now, in the simplicity of this one breath, we are fundamentally okay. This practice of returning home to the now, again and again, is the master key that unlocks a profound and enduring sense of peace. And as we begin to inhabit this present moment more fully, as we start to feel safer and more grounded within it, we can open our eyes and our hearts to a new possibility. We can begin to truly notice and appreciate the simple, profound, and often overlooked gifts that this very moment holds. This recognition opens the door to our next practice, a practice that has the power to transform our entire outlook on life, from one of scarcity and fear to one of abundance and joy. The simple, beautiful, and life-changing cultivation of a grateful heart. Having learned to find a safe refuge from the phantoms of the future by returning to the present moment, we can now begin to explore the landscape of this now with fresh eyes. We have arrived home, but what is the quality of this home? What is the atmosphere of our own mind? Day to day, for many of us, if we look honestly, we find that our minds have a powerful, built-in habit of focusing on what is wrong. This is often called the negativity bias. It is an ancient survival mechanism. For our ancestors, it was far more important to notice the one tiger in the bushes than the 99 beautiful flowers. To survive, their brains became incredibly efficient at scanning for threats, problems, and what was lacking in their environment. While this kept them alive, for us, in our modern world, this same mechanism creates a chronic, low-level state of dissatisfaction. Our minds are constantly scanning our lives for the one thing that is out of place, the flaw, the problem to be solved. We can have a wonderful day, but we will fixate on the one critical comment someone made. We can have a healthy body, but we will obsess over a minor ache or a new wrinkle. We live in a state of perpetual scarcity, always feeling that we are not quite good enough, that our lives are not quite complete. The radical and life-altering antidote to this deeply ingrained habit is the intentional practice of gratitude. Gratitude is not a passive feeling that we wait for, something that only arrives when we get a promotion or win the lottery. It is an active practice. It is a conscious decision to train our attention, to counterbalance the mind's natural tendency to see what's missing by intentionally looking for what is present. If the mind is a garden, the weeds of complaint and dissatisfaction will grow automatically without any effort. Gratitude is the deliberate act of planting flowers. It is choosing to water the seeds of appreciation and joy so that they grow strong and beautiful, eventually leaving less room for the weeds. It is a profound shift in perspective, away from a life defined by what we lack, and toward a life celebrated for what we have. It is the simple, yet revolutionary, act of noticing the goodness that is already here, a goodness that we so often overlook in our frantic race for something more. The beauty of this practice is its profound simplicity. It requires no special equipment, no particular setting, and no extra time. It can be done right here, right now. Let us try it together. As you rest here, I invite you to bring to mind just 3 things for which you feel a sense of gratitude. They do not need to be big, dramatic things. In fact, the true power of this practice is often found in the small, simple gifts of daily existence that we so easily take for granted. Perhaps you can feel a sense of gratitude for the bed or chair that is supporting your body, holding you in comfort and safety. Perhaps you can feel grateful for the roof over your head, protecting you from the elements. Maybe you can feel a sense of gratitude for your own body, this incredible, intelligent organism that is breathing for you, circulating your blood and healing itself, all without any conscious effort on your part. You might feel grateful for the simple taste of clean water, for the memory of a beautiful piece of music, or for a kind word someone once shared with you. Take a moment to scan your life, your body, your memory, and just find 1, 2, or 3 small things And as you bring each one to mind, don't just think the thought. Try to actually feel the gratitude. Let it land in your body. Let it be a warmth in your chest, a softening in your belly, a gentle smile on your lips. This feeling is the nourishment. This is the water for the flowers in your garden. As this practice deepens, we can even learn to find gratitude for the difficult moments in our lives. This is not about being grateful for the trauma or the pain itself. It is about being grateful for the strength we discovered within ourselves as we navigated that pain. We can be grateful for a past failure because it taught us a crucial lesson that we needed to learn. We can be grateful for a heartbreak because it cracked our heart open and taught us the true meaning of compassion. We can be grateful for a period of loneliness because it taught us how to be our own best friend. This practice transforms our life story from a catalogue of grievances into a curriculum for wisdom. It allows us to see that even the mud and the manure of our lives have served as fertilizer for our growth. We begin to trust the entire process of life, the light and the dark, seeing it all as part of our journey toward wholeness. This is the secret alchemy of a grateful heart. Gratitude turns what we have into enough, and more than enough. In a world that is constantly telling us we need more to be happier, better job, a bigger house, a newer car, gratitude whispers the liberating truth. The joy you are seeking is already here, hidden in plain sight. It is the foundation of true contentment. The simple, quiet joy of appreciating the life you already have. True wealth is not about having more, but about wanting less. And gratitude is the key that unlocks this profound state of inner abundance. There is a simple, archetypal story that speaks to this truth. A mighty king who possessed vast palaces, mountains of gold, and command over powerful armies, found himself perpetually unhappy. He was restless, bored, and always craving something more. He heard tales of a beggar who sat by the main road into the city each day, a man who owned nothing but a ragged robe and an old wooden bowl, yet who always had a look of serene contentment on his face. The king, intrigued and annoyed, disguised himself as a common merchant and went to see this man. He found the beggar sitting in the sun, humming a quiet tune. "You seem to be a very happy man," said the king, "yet you have nothing. I have everything a man could desire, and I am miserable. What is your secret?" The beggar smiled, a wide, toothless grin. "There is no secret. Good sir," he said, "my practice is very simple. Every morning when I wake, the first thing I do is thank the sun for sharing its warmth. Then I thank the air for allowing me to take another breath. I thank my old legs for carrying me to this spot. And I thank this old bowl for the possibility that it might receive a few grains of rice today. I have nothing, and so I have learned to be grateful for everything. You, Your Majesty, have everything, and so perhaps you have forgotten to be grateful for anything." The king stood in stunned silence. The beggar's simple words pierced his heart like an arrow of truth. He realized that his entire life had been a relentless pursuit of more, a constant focus on what was next, what was missing. He had never once stopped to simply appreciate the incredible abundance that was already his. When our own hearts are filled with this deep and genuine appreciation for the simple gifts of the present moment, this breath, this body, this life, a natural and beautiful impulse begins to arise within us. We feel a desire to honor these gifts, We want to meet our precious life not with distraction or indifference, but with the full measure of our attention and care. Gratitude makes us want to show up completely for the life we feel so lucky to have. This powerful impulse to be fully present leads us from simply appreciating what is here to transforming how we are here. It brings us to the profound and beautiful practice of finding meditation in every simple activity, of discovering the sacredness hidden within the heart of the ordinary. With a heart softened and made spacious by gratitude, we begin to look upon our lives with new eyes. We appreciate the simple gift of being here, of having this precious opportunity to experience the world. This appreciation naturally gives rise to a powerful question. If this life, this moment, is so precious, how am I living it? Am I truly showing up for it? For many of us, the practice of meditation is something we confine to a cushion, a quiet 20-minute period in the morning or evening. We believe this is the special time for peace and awareness. And the rest of our day, the working, the commuting, the cooking, the cleaning is just ordinary, stressful life that we have to get through. But this is a misunderstanding of the path. The time on the cushion is simply the training ground. It is the gymnasium where we strengthen the muscle of our attention. The real practice, the true test, is how we carry that awareness with us into every moment of our so-called ordinary day. This is the art of meditation in action, the discovery of the sacred within the mundane. There is no better guide for this practice than the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who taught this with profound simplicity. He often used the example of washing the dishes. For most of us, washing the dishes is a chore. It is an obstacle. We rush through it. Our minds a million miles away, thinking about the television show we want to watch, the email we have to send, or the conversation we had earlier. Our body is at the sink, but our mind is in the past or the future. We are not truly alive during that time. The master taught that when you are washing the dishes, you should only be washing the dishes. This means you are not trying to get it over with. You are completely present for the act of washing. Let us imagine this. You pick up a single bowl. You feel its weight and shape in your hands. You turn on the water, and you are aware of the sound it makes and the feeling of its warmth on your skin. You apply the soap, and you notice the fresh scent and the sight of the iridescent bubbles forming. As you scrub the bowl, you are aware of the motion of your hands, the contact of the sponge on the ceramic. You are simply there, with the bowl, the water, and your breath. In that moment, the simple act of washing a bowl becomes a meditation. It becomes a miracle. You are fully present, fully alive. The master taught that if we are unable to be happy while washing the dishes, we will likely be unable to be happy while drinking the cup of tea that we are rushing to get to. Because while we are drinking the tea, our minds will already be racing ahead to the next thing. Happiness is only ever available in the present moment. If we are constantly rushing through the present to get to a better future, we will be rushing for our entire lives. By bringing our full attention to a simple task, we reclaim our life. The chore is no longer a chore. It is an opportunity to be awake. The dishes are not an obstacle to be overcome. They are a means of realizing our own presence and peace. We can extend this profound practice to every single activity in our day. Consider the simple act of walking. Most of the time, we walk simply to get from one place to another, our minds lost in thought, our bodies on autopilot. But we can practice mindful walking. With each step, You can feel the solid contact of your foot upon the earth. You can feel the subtle shift of weight, the movement in your legs. You are not trying to get anywhere. You are simply arriving, again and again, in the present moment with each step. The journey itself becomes the destination. We can also practice mindful eating. Instead of consuming our food distractedly in front of a screen, we can slow down and truly experience it. We can look at the colors on our plate. We can smell the aromas. When we take a bite, we can chew slowly, noticing the different tastes and textures. We can even contemplate the incredible journey this food has taken to reach us: the sun, the rain, the soil, the farmer, the truck driver. Suddenly, a simple meal becomes an act of deep connection with the entire cosmos. A simple cup of tea can become a ceremony of peace. If we just slow down and give it our full attention, the warmth of the cup in our hands, the rising steam, the delicate fragrance, the soothing taste. Every part of our day can be transformed in this way. A shower is no longer just a task to get clean, but a sensuous experience of warm water washing over our body. Waiting in a line is no longer a frustrating waste of time, but a precious opportunity to stand still and come back to our breath. The entire distinction between meditation time and the rest of life begins to dissolve. Life itself becomes the meditation. Every moment, no matter how mundane or repetitive, becomes an invitation to wake up. There is a classic Zen story that encapsulates this ultimate integration of practice into life. A young, eager student approached his old Zen master and asked him, "Master, what was your life like before you attained enlightenment?" The master replied with a gentle smile, "Before I was enlightened, I chopped wood and I carried water." The student was a little disappointed, but he continued, "And what is your life like now, after you have attained enlightenment?" The master's smile didn't change. He replied, "Now that I am enlightened, I chop wood and I carry water." The student was utterly confused. "Then what is the difference?" he pressed. "What has changed?" The master looked at him with kind eyes. "Ah," he said, "the difference is this. Before I was enlightened, when I was chopping wood, my mind was thinking about carrying the water, and when I was carrying the water, my mind was already thinking about how to prepare the tea. But now, when I am chopping wood, I am only chopping wood, and when I am carrying water, I am only carrying water." This is the heart of the practice. Enlightenment is not about escaping to a different realm or achieving a supernatural state. It is about being 100% present for the simple, ordinary, and beautiful reality of this life. It is about closing the gap between our mind and our body so that we are fully here for whatever we are doing. This practice of bringing our full, undivided attention to the solitary acts of our lives: washing, walking, eating, working, builds a powerful and stable muscle of presence. And as this muscle of mindfulness grows stronger, we find that we can bring this same quality of deep, unwavering attention into our more complex and dynamic interactions with other people. The most fundamental way we connect with others is through the way we communicate. This leads us naturally from the practice of solitary mindfulness to the practice of relational mindfulness, to explore how this awakened presence can transform our relationships through the profound arts of deep listening and loving speech. Having discovered the sacred in the ordinary, having learned to be fully present for the simple, solitary acts of our own lives, we are now ready to bring this awakened presence into the most dynamic, complex, and rewarding field of practice. Our relationships with others, the quality of our lives is, in so many ways, determined by the quality of our relationships, and the foundation of any relationship, whether with a partner, a child, a friend, or a colleague, is communication. Yet, for most of us, this is where we struggle the most. Our conversations so often become a source of misunderstanding, conflict, and pain. But it does not have to be this way. By applying the very same principles of mindfulness we have been cultivating, we can transform the way we communicate, turning it from a battlefield of egos into a garden of mutual understanding and healing. This practice has two essential wings, and like a bird, we need both to fly, the wing of deep listening and the wing of loving speech. Let us first explore the profound and radical art of deep listening. Most of the time, when another person is speaking, we are not truly listening. We are hearing the sounds, but our mind is incredibly busy. We are judging what they are saying, comparing it to our own experiences, and most of all, we are formulating our reply. We are simply waiting for them to take a breath so that we can jump in with our own story, our own opinion, our own advice. This is not listening. This is a form of conversational combat, where two egos are simply reloading while the other is firing. Deep listening is something else entirely. Its sole purpose is not to win, not to advise, and not to be right. The sole purpose of deep listening is to offer the other person a space where they can feel safe enough to empty their heart. It is the greatest gift we can give, the gift of our full, undivided, non-judgmental presence. When we listen in this way, we are offering a kind of sanctuary. We are communicating without words. I am fully here with you. I value what you are saying. You matter. For many people, to be truly heard in this way is such a rare and healing experience that it can, by itself, alleviate a great deal of their suffering. The practice of deep listening is simple, though not always easy. It begins with the intention. Before a conversation, you can set the silent intention. My only goal here is to understand this person's heart. As they speak, you bring your full awareness to them. You listen not just with your ears, but with your eyes, noticing their body language. You listen with your heart, trying to feel the emotions behind their words. You use your own breath as an anchor. When you notice your mind starting to formulate a reply or a judgment, you gently guide your attention back to your breath and back to the person in front of you. You are not listening to agree or disagree. You are simply receiving. You are creating a safe space for their truth to unfold, whatever it may be. Often, in this practice, we discover the immense power of compassionate silence. When someone is sharing a deep pain, our first impulse is often to rush in with solutions or cliches. Don't worry, it will be okay. You should try this. I know exactly how you feel. But these phrases, though well-intentioned, often shut the other person down. They are not asking for a solution. They are asking for a witness, to simply sit with someone in their pain, to hold that space for them in shared présence, can be the most powerful act of compassion imaginable. It says, I am not afraid of your darkness. I will sit here with you. You are not alone. The second wing of this practice is loving speech. When we have listened deeply, and the time is right for us to speak, We do so with the same mindfulness and care. In the Buddhist tradition, this is known as right speech, and it has 4 beautiful and practical guidelines. The first is to speak truthfully. This means abstaining from lying, from exaggeration, from spreading information you are not sure is true. Truthfulness is the bedrock of trust in any relationship. Without it, there can be no real intimacy or connection. The second guideline is to speak in a way that brings people together, not in a way that drives them apart. This means abstaining from divisive speech, from gossip that poisons relationships, from slander that harms another's reputation. Before speaking about someone, we can ask ourselves, am I saying this to foster harmony and understanding, or am I creating more division? The third guideline is to speak with kindness and gentleness. This refers to the tone and quality of our words. It means abstaining from harsh, abusive, or insulting language, from yelling or speaking with contempt, even when we must speak a difficult truth or disagree with someone. We can do so with a tone that is respectful and soft. A kind word can heal a wound, while a harsh word can create one that lasts for years. The fourth and final guideline is to speak words that are useful and beneficial. Our world is already so full of noise, of meaningless chatter that drains our energy. Loving speech is purposeful speech. Before speaking, we can run our intention through a series of gates. Is what I am about to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is this the right time to say it? If the answer to any of these is no, then perhaps the most loving speech is silence. We can see the perfect embodiment of these practices in the life of the Buddha himself. He was a master of skillful communication. He did not have one standard lecture that he gave to everyone. He listened deeply to the specific needs and suffering of each person who came to him. When the grief-stricken Kisa Gotami came to him, he didn't give her a complex sermon on impermanence. He met her where she was, in her delusion, and gave her a compassionate task that would allow her to discover the truth for herself. When he met the fearsome murderer Angulimala, he didn't speak with fear or condemnation, but with a calm and unshakable authority that pierced through the man's rage. When he spoke to learned scholars, his words were precise and philosophical. When he spoke to simple farmers, he used parables and metaphors from their daily lives. In every case, his words were a direct expression of his boundless compassion and wisdom, perfectly tailored to heal, to awaken, and to liberate. He showed us that loving speech is not just about being polite. It is a profound spiritual practice, an art form that requires presence, wisdom, and a deeply caring heart. When we begin to practice deep listening and loving speech in our own lives, our relationships begin to heal and blossom in remarkable ways. We create little islands of sanity and refuge for one another in a world that is often confusing and harsh. Conflict and misunderstanding are replaced by clarity and connection. We feel safer with each other, more seen, more valued, and as we become more skilled at creating this field of mindful presence between ourselves and one other person, a natural aspiration begins to grow. We begin to wonder, is it possible to expand this field? Can we create a family, a group of friends, or a larger community where this quality of mindful communication is the shared foundation? This question leads us to explore the incredible power and profound importance of practicing together, of finding refuge in what the Buddha called the Sangha, the precious community of fellow travelers walking this beautiful path with us. We have journeyed together through the inner landscapes of the mind, learning to be present with our breath, to observe our thoughts, and to transform our most difficult emotions. We have learned to communicate with a new depth of presence and kindness. Much of this work is deeply personal, an intimate journey undertaken in the quiet of our own hearts. In our modern culture, there is often an idealization of the rugged individual, the solitary hero who faces their demons alone and emerges victorious. But the path of wisdom, as it has been taught for thousands of years, recognizes a profound truth. While the journey is our own, we do not have to walk it alone. In fact, to attempt to do so is to make a difficult path almost impossible. The path of awakening is not a solitary climb up a lonely mountain peak. It is a journey taken together, hand in hand, with fellow travelers who can offer light, support, and friendship along the way. This community of fellow travelers is known as the Sangha. In the Buddhist tradition, the Sangha is considered so essential that it is one of the three jewels, or three refuges, that practitioners turn to for guidance and protection. Alongside the Buddha, the awakened teacher, and the Dharma, the teachings themselves. Traditionally, the Sangha referred to the community of ordained monks and nuns who have dedicated their entire lives to the practice. But in our contemporary world, the meaning of Sangha has beautifully expanded to embrace all of us. A Sangha is any community of people, large or small, who come together with a shared intention, the intention to cultivate mindfulness, to grow in wisdom, and to develop a more compassionate heart. A Sangha could be a formal meditation group that meets in a center once a week. It could be a small circle of friends who read spiritual books together and discuss how to apply the teachings in their lives. It could even be a family or a couple who make a conscious commitment to practice deep listening and loving speech with one another. The form is less important than the shared intention. It is the deliberate creation of a supportive environment where our desire for a more conscious and peaceful life is reflected, understood, and encouraged. Why is this community so vital? Because the spiritual path is filled with challenges. There are days when our motivation wanes, when our meditation feels dry and difficult, when the pressures of the world seem overwhelming and we feel like giving up. It is on these days that the Sangha becomes our lifeline. When our own light feels dim, we can be inspired by the steady light of others. When we are lost in our own confusion, a friend on the path can offer a word of clarity that helps us find our way. The collective energy of a group practicing together is powerful. It buoys us up when we feel we are sinking. A true Sangha also provides us with an invaluable mirror. We all have blind spots. We have patterns of ego, of pride, of subtle selfishness that we cannot see in ourselves. A kind and trusted friend in the practice can reflect these patterns back to us with compassion, helping us to see ourselves more clearly and to grow in ways we could not on our own. It is a safe space to practice being vulnerable, to share our struggles without fear of judgment, and to celebrate our small victories with people who truly understand the journey. It provides a sense of accountability, a gentle encouragement to keep showing up for our own well-being, and perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that we are not alone. Our struggles, or doutes, our longings, these are not just ours. They are part of the human journey. And to share them with others who understand is to relieve an immense burden of isolation. There is a beautiful metaphor for the Sangha, a forest, a single tree, standing alone in an open field, is tremendously vulnerable. When strong winds blow, it must bear the full force of the gale alone, Its branches can be broken, its trunk can be stressed, and it can even be uprooted entirely. But when you walk into a forest, you feel a palpable sense of stillness and strength. The trees stand together, their roots intertwine deep beneath the soil, holding on to one another, creating a vast and stable foundation that supports the entire community. Above ground, their branches interlock to form a protective canopy that shelters the forest floor from the harshest sun and the most violent storms. Each tree gives and receives support simultaneously. A forest is not just a collection of individual trees. It is a single, interconnected, resilient ecosystem. Our spiritual practice is like this. When we try to stand alone, we are easily battered by the winds of our own doubt, laziness, and despair. But when we practice as a sangha, we create a supportive ecosystem. We intertwine our roots. We shelter one another. The strength of one becomes the strength of all. So how do we find or create this forest of refuge in our own lives? The first step is to recognize its importance and to set the intention to cultivate it. It can begin very simply. Perhaps it starts with finding just one Dharma friend, one person with whom you can speak openly and honestly about your practice, your challenges, and your insights. You can agree to check in with each other once a week, just to share and listen deeply. You might look for a local meditation center or an online group that resonates with you. Joining a group, even as a silent participant at first, can provide a powerful sense of connection and shared purpose. You could suggest a book on mindfulness or compassion to your existing book club, steering the conversation toward deeper, more meaningful territory. You could even be the seed of a sangha in your own family, by gently introducing the practice of stopping for 3 conscious breaths before a meal, or by making a commitment to practicing loving speech for a single day. The key is not to force anything, but to gently and consistently nurture connections that are based on a shared desire for a more awake and compassionate life. When we have the support of a sangha, this forest of friends to lean on, we find within ourselves a new and surprising resilience. We feel seen, we feel understood, and we feel held. This collective strength, this shared refuge of the heart, becomes especially crucial when life calls upon us to face its greatest and most unavoidable challenges. The journey of life inevitably includes the experience of parting, of letting go, of loss. When the ground beneath our own feet begins to shake, it is the intertwined roots of our community that can hold us steady. With the quiet, unwavering support of our friends on the path, we can find the courage to look directly into the heart of the great mysteries of life and death. Not with terror, but with a heart that is open, tender, and unafraid. This brings us to the necessary and deeply healing practice of facing loss with wisdom and compassion. With the strength of our community, our sangha, holding us, we find we have the courage to turn our gentle awareness toward the great mysteries of life, the ones we so often push to the edges of our consciousness. We can now dare to look at the universal experiences of parting, of loss, and ultimately, of death. For most of us, these concepts are wrapped in our deepest fears. We see death as a terrifying end, a final annihilation, a door that slams shut, plunging us or our loved ones into a cold, empty nothingness. It is this idea of death as a final erasure that causes us so much anguish. But the path of wisdom offers us a different lens, a more peaceful and spacious way to understand this most natural of all transformations. It invites us to look deeply beyond our conditioned fears, and to see that what we call birth and death may not be what they seem at all. In our conventional way of thinking, we see life as a straight line. Birth is the beginning point, where something comes out of nothing. Death is the end point, where that something goes back into nothing. But if we look deeply at the nature of reality, we discover that nothing ever truly comes from nothing, and nothing ever truly becomes nothing. There is only transformation. There is only continuation. The great master, Thich Nhat Hanh, offered a beautiful way to understand this. He invited us to look at a cloud floating in a blue sky. It is beautiful, soft, and full of form. We can say, "Hello, cloud," but then, after a while, we look up and the cloud is no longer there. Our first thought is to say, "The cloud is gone. The cloud has died." But has it? Or has the cloud simply changed its form? The cloud has become the rain, falling on the mountains and the fields. The rain joins a stream and flows to a great river. The river waters the tea plants, and the tea farmer picks the leaves. The leaves are dried and end up in our cup. And as we lift the warm cup of tea to our lips, we can look deeply and see our cloud again. The cloud has not died. It has continued in a new and beautiful form. In just the same way, a person is not a solid, separate entity that appears from nowhere and disappears into nothing. A person is a manifestation, a coming together of countless causes and conditions. When we are born, we are not coming from nothing. We are continuing our parents, our grandparents, and all our ancestors before them. We are continuing the sunshine, the air, the water, and the food of the earth. And when our body ceases to function, when we do not become nothing. We simply continue in other forms. Our body, a gift from the earth, returns to the earth to nourish new life. Our actions, our words, and our love continue to ripple through the hearts and minds of everyone we have ever touched. This is not just a beautiful philosophy, it is a deep practice that can transform our grief. When you are missing a loved one who has passed, instead of focusing only on the pain of their physical absence, you can practice looking for their continuation. You can look in the mirror and see their eyes or their smile in your own face. You can perform an act of kindness that they taught you and feel them acting through you. You can cook a meal they loved and know they are present in the sharing of that food. You can hear their voice of advice in your head when you face a difficult decision. In this way, you realize they are not truly gone. Their energy, their love, and their lessons are woven into the very fabric of your being. They are as close as your own breath, as real as your own heartbeat. You can even speak to them. You can tell them about your day. Thank them for their presence in your life, and feel their love continuing to support you. This practice does not erase the sadness of missing their physical form, but it transforms it. It shifts our focus from the painful illusion of annihilation to the comforting truth of continuation. It is so important to understand that this practice is not meant to suppress our grief. Grief is not a problem to be solved. It is a natural and necessary expression of our love. The tears we cry are a testament to the depth of our connection. To grieve is to be human. The path of wisdom does not ask us to stop grieving. It asks us to learn to grieve with wisdom. The sharp, overwhelming pain of grief often comes from that deep-seated belief that our loved one is gone forever. But when we can hold our sadness within the spacious, compassionate understanding that they have simply changed their form, the quality of our grief changes. It becomes softer, more tender. We can allow the waves of sadness to wash over us, feeling them fully, while also holding the knowledge of their continuation in our heart. We can miss them terribly, while also smiling at the sight of a flower they loved, seeing their presence in its beauty. We grieve, but we are not drowned by our grief. We are held by the vast, comforting truth of life's seamless, unending flow. This is the profound insight that healed Kisa Gautami. In her initial madness, she saw the death of her son as a singular, unjust tragedy that had happened only to her. She was trapped in the small, agonizing story of her personal loss. But when the Buddha sent her on her journey for the mustard seed, her perspective shattered. In every house, she found the story of loss. She realized that what she was experiencing was not a punishment, but a universal law of nature, birth and death, appearing and disappearing, are two sides of the same coin. They are the rhythm of the cosmos, the great dance that includes everyone and everything. Without exception, her heart broke open, moving from the narrow pain of my suffering to the vast, compassionate understanding of our suffering. She saw that life and death are not opposites. They are partners. You cannot have one without the other. Like the left and the right side of a piece of paper, they are inextricably bound together. When we can begin to see our own lives and the lives of those we love through this lens of continuation, our deepest fears about death begin to soften. We are relieved of the terrible burden of believing in a beginning and an end. This profound shift in perspective naturally changes how we want to live our lives. Right here and now, if we understand that this particular form, this precious human life, is a temporary manifestation, the frantic and endless pursuit of more possessions, more status, more achievements, more distractions starts to seem less compelling. We ask ourselves, given the transient beauty of this life, what is truly important? How do I want to spend my precious moments? Our priorities begin to shift, moving away from the superficial and toward the essential. We no longer want to waste our time on things that do not truly nourish our hearts. This deep seeing of our own beautiful, fleeting nature guides us toward a life of greater meaning, purpose, and elegance. It leads us to discover the immense joy, the profound freedom, and the quiet dignity of a life of simplicity. Having looked with courage and compassion at the great mystery of our own transient existence, a profound re-evaluation begins to take place. When we truly understand that our time in this particular form is precious and limited, we instinctively begin to question what is truly important. We look around at the lives we have built, at the things we chase, and we begin to wonder, is this truly nourishing my heart? Is this the best use of my precious moments? Our modern world offers a very loud and clear answer to the question of happiness. It tells us that happiness is something to be acquired. It is a product to be bought. It is the next smartphone, the bigger house, the more luxurious vacation, the promotion at work. We are taught to live in a state of perpetual striving, always reaching for the next thing that we believe will finally make us feel complete. This is a restless, anxious way to live. It is a race on a treadmill, where the finish line of contentment is always moving just a little further away as soon as we approach it, we get the thing we wanted, feel a brief flicker of pleasure, and then the mind immediately moves on to the next object of desire, the next thing that is missing. This is a recipe not for happiness, but for exhaustion. The path of wisdom offers a radical, simple, and deeply joyful alternative. It suggests that happiness is not found by adding more to our lives, but by subtracting the non-essential. It is the practice of simplicity in the Buddhist tradition. This is known as living with few desires and knowing the feeling of contentment. It is the realization that true wealth is not measured by the abundance of our possessions, but by the scarcity of our wants. A person who has $1 million but is consumed with the desire to make 2 million is, in reality, living in poverty. A person who has very little but feels a deep sense of enough is truly a wealthy human being. This is not a call to a life of harsh, joyless asceticism. It is an invitation to a life of elegance, freedom, and profound appreciation for what is already here. It is about discovering the joy that is not dependent on external circumstances. This practice of simplicity has two aspects, outer and inner. Outer simplicity involves consciously looking at our relationship with the material world. It is the practice of clearing clutter, of letting go of the countless possessions we accumulate that we do not truly need or love. We can look around our homes and ask of each object, does this truly serve or bring joy to my life? If the answer is no, perhaps we can let it go, creating physical space and a sense of lightness. Even more importantly, it is the practice of mindful consumption. Before we buy something new, we can pause and ask ourselves, am I buying this because I have a genuine need for it? Or am I trying to fill an emotional void? Am I feeling bored, lonely, or inadequate? And hoping this purchase will soothe that feeling, often we will find that the desire for a new object is actually a deeper longing for connection, for peace, or for meaning, things that can never be found in a shopping bag. By choosing to own less, we are freed from the burden of maintaining, storing, insuring, and worrying about our things. We create space, not just in our homes, but in our minds. This leads us to the practice of inner simplicity. This is the art of reducing the clutter and noise within our own consciousness. It means learning to say no to commitments, invitations, and activities that we know will drain our energy and bring us no real joy. It means consciously choosing to spend less time consuming, distracting, or agitating media, and more time in quiet contemplation, in nature, or in meaningful conversation. It involves simplifying our frantic schedules to allow for periods of unstructured time, moments where we can simply be, without an agenda. In this inner spaciousness, we begin to rediscover the profound and exquisite joy of simple pleasures. We have been so busy chasing extravagant experiences that we have forgotten the sublime happiness available in the taste of fresh, cool water when we are thirsty, the feeling of the warm sun on our skin on a cool day, the incredible beauty of a single, ordinary flower, the deep comfort of a shared silence with a loved one. These are the true riches of human existence, and they are available to all of us, at all times, completely free of charge. Simplicity is the key that unlocks the door to this hidden treasure. When we begin to live in this way, we experience a profound sense of liberation. It is as if a great weight has been lifted from our shoulders. We are freed from the exhausting pressure to keep up with the Joneses. We are released from the constant, low-level anxiety of acquiring and the fear of losing. Our sense of self-worth is no longer tied to our job title, our bank account, or the brand of clothes we wear. We find a new kind of confidence, one that is rooted not in our external image, but in our internal peace. We discover that we need so much less than we thought to be truly, deeply happy. There is a wonderful story from ancient Greece that perfectly illustrates this radical freedom. Alexander the Great, the conqueror of most of the known world, a man who possessed unimaginable wealth and power, heard about a famous philosopher named Diogenes. This philosopher was known for his life of extreme and joyful simplicity. His only shelter was a large ceramic jar, like a barrel, in the middle of the marketplace. Intrigued, Alexander went to meet him, surrounded by his retinue of generals and guards. He found Diogenes relaxing in the morning sun, looking perfectly content. Alexander, standing over him, casting a shadow upon him, announced, "I am Alexander the Great." He then said, "I am so impressed by your wisdom that I would like to offer you a gift. Ask anything of me, anything at all, and it will be yours." Diogenes, without moving, simply looked up at the most powerful man on earth. He considered the offer for a moment and then replied, "Yes, there is one thing you can do for me. Please stand a little to one side. You are blocking my sunlight." Alexander was said to have been so struck by this that he later told his generals, "Truly, if I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." The king could offer anything the world had to give, but Diogenes already possessed the one thing that mattered, a heart that needed nothing. His wealth was his freedom from wanting. This is the great peace that simplicity offers when we clear away the external clutter of unnecessary things and the internal clutter of ceaseless wanting. Our minds become remarkably quiet. The frantic noise of the world begins to subside. In this newfound clarity and silence, we can begin to perceive the subtle workings of our own lives with a new precision. We are no longer distracted by the superficial, so we can see the essential. We can begin to see, with startling clarity, the direct and unavoidable relationship between the actions we take and the results we experience. We can see how the seeds of our intentions, words, and deeds grow into the flowers and weeds of our life. This clear seeing, born from a simple life, brings us to a direct and personal understanding of the universal law of cause and effect. The profound and empowering teaching of karma, living a life of simplicity. We have cleared away the clutter, both outside and inside. In the quiet space that remains, our perception becomes sharp and clear. We are no longer distracted by the constant noise of wanting and acquiring, and in this clarity, we can begin to perceive one of the most profound and empowering laws of the universe. A law as fundamental and as reliable as the law of gravity. This is the law of karma. Now, this word is often deeply misunderstood in our modern world. We tend to think of karma as a kind of cosmic system of reward and punishment, a mystical fate that is sealed for us, or a supernatural force doling out justice from on high. But the teaching of karma is something far more simple, practical, and scientific. It is nothing more and nothing less than the natural law of cause and effect applied to our actions. It simply states that every action has a corresponding result. If you plant an apple seed, you will get an apple tree. You cannot plant an apple seed and expect a mango to grow. If you touch a hot stove, you will feel the pain of a burn. This is not a punishment. It is the natural, unavoidable consequence of the action. Karma is the same. It is the universe's elegant, impersonal system of cause and consequence. The absolute heart of this teaching, the key that unlocks its true meaning, lies in one crucial element: intention. The Buddha taught that karma is, at its core, cetana, a word that means volition or intention. It is the will, the motive, the conscious choice behind an action that gives it its karmic weight. The physical act itself is secondary. For example, if you are walking in a forest and you accidentally step on a small insect you did not see, the karmic result is negligible because there was no intention to cause harm. But if you see an insect and, out of a flash of irritation or cruelty, you intentionally crush it, the karmic seed planted is much heavier. The physical action is the same, but the intention is worlds apart. One was an accident, the other was born from a volition to destroy. Every moment of our lives, we are planting seeds with our intentions. Every conscious thought we think, every deliberate word we speak, every intentional action we take with our body one is a seed dropped into the fertile soil of our mind and the world. And these seeds, without exception, will ripen in their own time and bear their own fruit. These actions, or karmic seeds, can be broadly understood in two categories: unwholesome and wholesome. Unwholesome karma, or akusala karma, are actions motivated by what are known in Buddhism as the three poisons: greed, which is the energy of clinging, craving, and wanting more; hatred, which is the energy of aversion; anger, ill will, and the desire to push away; and delusion, which is the energy of ignorance, confusion, and not seeing reality clearly. When our actions of thought, word, or deed are rooted in these poisoned states of mind, they naturally and inevitably lead to suffering, both for ourselves and for others. If we speak words born of hatred, the natural result is conflict, broken relationships, and a heart filled with bitterness. If we act out of greed, the natural result is a feeling of scarcity, jealousy, and the anxiety that comes from trying to protect what we have acquired. These are not punishments from an angry God. They are simply the rotten fruit that grows from poisoned seeds. Wholesome karma, or kusala karma, are actions motivated by the direct opposites of the three poisons: generosity and non-attachment, which is the antidote to greed; loving, kindness, and compassion, which are the antidotes to hatred; and wisdom and clarity, which is the antidote to delusion. When our intentional actions are rooted in these bright, wholesome states, they naturally and inevitably lead to happiness, peace, and connection. When we perform an act of selfless generosity, the immediate result is a feeling of joy and abundance in our own heart, and it brings joy to the person who receives it. When we speak words of kindness and encouragement, the natural result is trust, harmony, and a warm feeling of connection. When we act with a clear and wise understanding, the result is peace and skillful outcomes. Again, this is not a reward. It is simply the sweet, nourishing fruit that naturally grows from healthy, wholesome seeds. Understanding this law places the full responsibility and the full power for our lives directly into our own hands. The Buddha said that all beings are the owners of their karma, the heirs to their karma. We are born from our karma. We are related to our karma, and we are supported by our karma. This means, on the one hand, that we can no longer blame the world, our parents, or our circumstances for our unhappiness. The ultimate source of our suffering lies in the unwholesome seeds we have planted in the past and continue to plant in the present. This is the call to take radical responsibility for our lives. But on the other hand, this is the most empowering teaching imaginable. If we are the creators of our own karma, it means we are not helpless victims of fate. It means the future is not set in stone. It means that in this very moment, and the next, and the next, we have the power to change our lives. In any given situation, we have a choice. We can respond with an intention of anger or an intention of patience. We can act with a mind of greed or a mind of generosity. We can speak with words of delusion or words of wisdom. We are the farmers of our own existence. Imagine a farmer who wants to have a bountiful harvest of sweet corn. He knows he must first plant corn seeds. He cannot plant pebbles and hope for corn. He knows he must then tend to his field. He must water the seeds with his effort and his diligence. He must make sure they get sunlight by cultivating wisdom and understanding. He must pull the weeds of his unskillful habits, the greed and anger that would choke the young plants. The farmer understands that the law of the harvest is impersonal and reliable. What he plants, he will reap. Our lives operate on this very same law. We are the farmers. Our mind is the field. Our intentions are the seeds. Our daily actions are the tending of the garden. The happiness or suffering we experience is simply the harvest. This profound understanding of karma transforms us from passive spectators or victims of our lives into conscious and active creators of our reality. We realize that with every single thought, with every word that passes our lips, with every small deed we perform, we are sculpting the person we are becoming and shaping the world we will inhabit tomorrow. This realization of our own creative power, our own agency, naturally gives rise to a beautiful and inspiring question. If we have this incredible capacity to shape our own lives, what is the highest and best life that we can create? If we are the farmers of our own being, what is the ultimate harvest for which we are striving? What is the goal of all this mindful planting and skillful cultivation? This path of conscious action leads us toward the fullest and most beautiful expression of our human potential. It leads us toward the complete freedom of the heart and the utter clarity of the mind. It brings us, finally, to the path of awakening, having come to understand the great law of cause and effect. We now see that we are the conscious creators of our own lives. With every intentional act of body, speech, and mind, we are planting seeds, shaping the person we are becoming. This profound realization of our own agency naturally leads to an inspiring question. If we have this power to shape our lives, what is the highest and most beautiful life we can aspire to create? What is the ultimate purpose of all this practice of watching the breath, of cultivating compassion, of living simply and mindfully? The path we have been walking together, a path of ever-deepening awareness and ever-expanding love, leads toward one ultimate destination. It leads to the complete freedom of the heart, the unshakable peace of a mind that sees reality with perfect clarity. In the Buddhist tradition, this is known as awakening, or enlightenment. It is the full blossoming of our human potential. Now, the word enlightenment can often feel very distant and otherworldly. We might imagine a saint floating on a cloud, completely removed from the struggles of ordinary life. But the reality of awakening is something far more intimate, more grounded, and more accessible than that. Awakening, or Bodhi in the ancient languages, simply means to be awake. It is not about becoming a superhuman. It is about becoming fully and completely human. It is the act of waking up from the dream of our own conditioning, the dream of our fears, our judgments, and our delusions. To be awakened is to see reality exactly as it is, for the very first time, without the distorting filters of our own greed, hatred, and ignorance. It is to know, in every cell of your being, the truth of impermanence, the reality of interconnection, and the freedom of no self. As a direct result of this clear seeing, all of the roots of suffering are pulled up. When you truly see that everything is transient and flowing, the desire to cling to pleasant experiences or push away unpleasant ones simply dissolves. And as we know, this clinging and aversion are the very cause of our distress. So, the end of delusion is the end of clinging, and the end of clinging is the end of suffering. It is a state of profound, unshakable peace that is not dependent on external conditions. An awakened being still experiences the world. They feel warmth and cold. They hear music. They feel joy, but they are not swept away by it. They remain in the calm, peaceful center, a witness to the unfolding dance of life. This might still sound like a far-off goal, something reserved for great masters in distant monasteries. But one of the most beautiful and encouraging teachings of this path is the doctrine of Buddha nature. This teaching states that within every single living being, without exception, there exists a seed of perfect enlightenment. At our deepest core, our true nature is already pure, wise, and compassionate. It is like a flawless diamond that has been accidentally dropped in the mud, or a golden statue that has been covered over with layers of dirt and clay. Our greed, our anger, our fear, and our confusion are not who we truly are. They are just the layers of mud and clay that cover our radiant, true nature. The entire spiritual path, then, is not a process of creating something new or becoming someone different. It is a process of purification, of gently and patiently washing away the accumulated layers of conditioning until the brilliant, inherent perfection of our own true nature is revealed. This means that awakening is not something you have to get from outside yourself. You don't have to earn it or acquire it. It is your birthright. It is the process of returning home to the truth of who you already are. With this understanding, the path is transformed. It is no longer a long, arduous struggle to achieve a distant goal. Instead, every single step on the path becomes an expression of our awakening. Every time you mindfully watch a single breath, that is a moment of awakening. Every time you choose a kind response over an angry one, you are allowing your Buddha nature to shine. Every act of generosity, every moment of forgiveness, every feeling of compassion, these are not just steps toward enlightenment. They are enlightenment, manifesting in that moment. The journey and the destination become one. You are simply practicing being who you truly are, again and again, until you no longer forget. The life of the man who became the Buddha is the ultimate testament to this human potential. Siddhartha Gautama was not born a god. He was a human being, just like us, who was deeply troubled by the reality of suffering. He undertook a long and difficult search, and finally, he sat down beneath a great tree, making a powerful vow that he would not get up from that spot until he had found the answer to suffering, once and for all. As he sat in deep meditation, all of his own inner obstacles, his own unprocessed karma, arose to challenge him. These are personified in the stories as the armies of a demon named Mara. Mara is not an external devil. He is the embodiment of our own inner demons. First, Mara sent his beautiful daughters to tempt Siddhartha with sensory pleasure and desire. But Siddhartha, grounded in his deep seeing of impermanence, was unmoved. He saw the fleeting nature of pleasure and did not cling. Then, Mara sent his terrifying armies, representing fear, anger, and doubt, to attack him. But Siddhartha, his heart filled with loving kindness and unshakable equanimity, was not afraid. The arrows they shot at him are said to have turned into flowers before they could reach him. He met hatred not with hatred, but with boundless love. Finally, Mara himself appeared, representing the ultimate temptation of the ego, arguing that he, Mara, had a greater right to be sitting on this seat of enlightenment. In response, Siddhartha did not argue. He simply performed a quiet, profound gesture. He reached down and touched the earth with his fingertips. This gesture, calling the earth to witness, was his silent declaration. It said, "The earth is my witness." Through countless lifetimes of practice, of patience, of generosity, of compassion, I have prepared myself for this moment. It was an act of profound humility, relying not on the claims of the ego, but on the simple truth of his journey. At that moment, as the morning star rose in the dawn sky, the last veils of ignorance fell away from his mind. He saw with perfect clarity the interconnected nature of all existence, and he became the Buddha, the awakened one. This story of the Buddha's journey from an ordinary, searching human being to a fully awakened one is not just a historical event. It is a map. It is a promise. It shows us what is possible for each and every one of us. This awakening is not a distant myth, but a living potential that exists within your own heart, your own mind. Right now, the path is not a journey to a faraway land. It is a journey inward, to the home you have never truly left. So, having traveled together through this vast inner landscape, from the simple starting point of the breath to the ultimate, shining goal of freedom, we must now bring this entire journey home. How do we seal this practice for the day? How do we carry the peace, the clarity, and the love we have cultivated, not just into our dreams, but into the precious waking moments of our life tomorrow? This brings us to our final, gentle practice, the simple and profound art of bringing peace into our sleep and into our life. And so, we arrive at the end of our waking day. At the gentle threshold of night, we have traveled together through the vast and intricate landscape of our own heart and mind. We began with the simple, humble gift of our own breath, finding in its steady rhythm an anchor in the stormy seas of our thoughts. We learned to sit on the bank of the mind's river, watching our thoughts and feelings flow by without being swept away. We looked with courage into the very root of our suffering, our habit of clinging, and we began to practice the beautiful, liberating art of letting go. We have seen the profound truth of impermanence, not as a reason for sadness, but as a source of freedom. We have dared to question the very nature of ourself, and in its place, we have discovered a boundless, joyful interconnection with all of life. From that open space, we have learned to cultivate the four boundless states of the heart: the sun-like warmth of loving kindness, the trembling tenderness of compassion, the selfless joy in the happiness of others, and the vast, unshakable peace of equanimity. We have learned to work with the fire of anger, to forgive the past, and to befriend our fear of the future. We have discovered the quiet joy of simplicity and the empowering truth of our own agency through the law of karma. We have glimpsed the ultimate destination of this path, the full blossoming of our own awakened nature. Now, with all of these precious tools and understandings gathered in our heart, we can approach the act of sleep not as a collapse from exhaustion, but as our final, most profound practice of the day. Sleep is the ultimate act of surrender. It is a practice of letting go of control, of trusting the world to continue without our supervision, and of allowing our body and mind the deep, restorative healing they so desperately need. So, as you settle into your final resting position for the night, let us prepare for this sacred practice together. Set the simple intention to release this day completely, with all of its successes and all of its failures, all of its joys and all of its sorrows. Let us offer this time as a gift to ourselves, a gift of profound, unconditional rest. Let us begin by bringing our awareness into the body. For a gentle journey of release, bring your full, kind attention all the way down to the tips of your toes. You don't need to change anything. Just notice whatever sensations are there. And now, with your out breath, consciously release all tension from your toes. Allow them to soften, to let go of all holding. Now bring that gentle awareness to the soles of your feet, to your heels, and to your ankles. Feel their contact with the bed, and with each exhalation, allow them to become heavy, soft, and deeply relaxed. Let this wave of relaxation flow up into your calves and your shins, melting away any tightness, any residual energy from the day's walking and standing. Let go. Allow your awareness to rest on your knees, and now your thighs, feeling the weight of these large muscles sinking down, becoming heavier and heavier, releasing all effort. Bring your attention to your hips, your pelvis, and your lower back, an area where we so often hold deep tension. Breathe into this space, and with the out breath, surrender. Let it all soften. Let it all go. Now, bring your awareness to your abdomen. Allow it to be soft, rising and falling gently with the natural rhythm of your breath. Release any clenching you may be holding here. Let your awareness expand into your chest, the home of your heart, and your upper back. Let your shoulders, which have carried the burdens of the day, finally release their load. Let them fall away from your ears, sinking down, heavy and at peace. This wave of relaxation now flows down both of your arms, through your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, and into your hands. Let your hands be soft and open. Unclench your fingers and let them rest gently. Bring your awareness to your neck. allowing the pillar that holds your head to be soft and free of tension. And finally, bring your attention to your face. Release your jaw. Let your tongue rest softly in your mouth. Allow your lips to part slightly. Soften the thousands of tiny muscles around your eyes, and let your forehead become wide, smooth, and completely serene. Your entire body is now held in a state of deep, peaceful rest. From this place of physical stillness, let us offer one final wave of loving kindness. Bring your awareness back to your heart center and silently offer this wish to yourself. May I have a deep and peaceful sleep. May my body, my heart, and my mind be healed and renewed as I rest. May I be safe and protected through the night. And now, let this feeling of peaceful goodwill radiate outward from you. Imagine it as a soft, gentle light, filling the room and extending out to all beings, wherever they may be. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings be at peace. May all beings rest well. And now, the final act of surrender. You can imagine gathering up all the events of the day that has just passed, all the conversations, all the worries, all the things left undone, all the plans for tomorrow. Gather them all up in your mind and gently place them into a small box. Place the lid on the box and set it just outside the door of your mind. You can pick it up again in the morning, if you choose, but for now, you are free. There is nothing left to do, nowhere to go, no one to be. There is only the gentle, rhythmic rising and falling of your own breath, your faithful anchor, now lulling you into a deeper and deeper state of peace. Feel the breath becoming slower, softer, more shallow, as your body prepares to drift. Imagine your mind is a vast, beautiful lake. During the day, the winds of thought, worry, and activity have been blowing across its surface, creating countless ripples and waves, stirring up the mud and sediment from the bottom. But now, as night falls, the wind begins to subside, the air becomes still, and as the winds of thought calm down, the mud of our worries and attachments slowly, gently, begins to settle. The surface of the lake becomes smoother and clearer. With each passing moment of stillness, it becomes more like a perfect, flawless mirror. And in this profound stillness, the lake of your mind can perfectly reflect the vast, quiet, star-filled night sky. This is the mind at peace. This is the mind ready for deep, healing rest. So now, you can let go. Trust this process. Allow yourself to dissolve into this peaceful darkness. Rest now. Let go. All is well. As you drift into this deep and healing peace, we can gently gather the threads of our long journey together, and in our final moments, summarize the simple, powerful truth we have uncovered on this path to peace. And so, our long journey through the quiet landscapes of the heart comes to a gentle close. We began together in the restless energy of a mind caught in the currents of yesterday and tomorrow, a mind seeking peace, but finding only distraction. From that place of turmoil, we embarked on a path inward. We found our most faithful friend and anchor in the simple, steady rhythm of our own breath. We learned to sit peacefully on the bank of the mind's river, watching the endless flow of thoughts and feelings without being carried away by them. With courage, we looked into the very nature of our suffering, and we discovered it was not caused by the world, but by our own habit of clinging to that which is, by its nature, always changing. This understanding opened the door to the great heart practices of loving kindness, compassion, and the profound, unshakable peace of equanimity. We learned to transform the fire of anger, to release the heavy burdens of the past through forgiveness, and to meet our fear of the future with a gentle, friendly presence. We discovered the quiet joy of a simple life, and the empowering truth that we are the conscious creators of our own reality. Ultimately, we have glimpsed the radiant possibility of our own awakening, the path of returning home to the peace and wisdom that is our true nature. If there is one simple truth to carry with you from our time together, let it be this: peace is not a destination you must struggle to reach. It is not a prize to be won, a secret to be discovered, or a condition that depends on having the perfect life, the perfect job, or the perfect relationship. Peace is not something you find out there. It is, and always has been, right here, inside of you. It is the silent, spacious, and aware sky that holds all the passing clouds of your thoughts and emotions. It is the deep, quiet stillness of the ocean floor, which remains unmoved by the turbulent waves on the surface. The entire path we have explored is not about creating this peace, but about uncovering it. All the practices, the mindfulness of breath, the cultivation of compassion, the act of letting go, are simply methods for gently clearing away the dust and debris of our conditioning that have obscured the perfect, pristine peace that is our birthright. You already have everything you need. It is within you now. And so, as you drift into sleep, know that you are not powerless. You are not a victim of your own mind. You are the owner of a beautiful inner home, and you now have the tools to tend to it with wisdom and care. You have the power to choose presence over distraction, compassion over judgment, and understanding over fear. Each new day, each new breath is a fresh beginning, a new opportunity to practice. The journey of awakening is not a race to a finish line, but a daily, moment-to-moment choice to live with an open heart and a clear mind. So rest deeply now, in the quiet confidence of your own inner goodness. Carry this peace with you into your dreams, and may you awaken tomorrow with a heart that is a little lighter, a mind that is a little clearer, and a spirit that is ready to meet the new day with grace, courage, and a gentle, peaceful smile.